All right, people. All right. So hopefully you can hear me now. Just wait for a confirmation whilst I just put my coffee over there. So who do we have here? All right. So let me just check. The sound is coming through clear. Got clear. All right. Farabri, Hussein, Daniel. All right. Now we can hear. إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضاه. Look at these people getting this. إن الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله على القوم people. Right, so what is going on? Whilst you're all just tuning in, clicking like, clicking share, you know the drill. I'll let you guys do that. Shukran. We've got Mufti, sound is perfect. Perfecto hona chahiye. Yajib an yakun perfecto. All right, so what is going on? It's Dil. All right, is that Dil Faroz? All right, Ahle Dil. Hum wo hain. What's Jiggers? Muradabadi? Okay. Hum wo nahi jinko zamana bana gaya. It's about Ahl Dil, the people of heart. Dil people. So, who do we have here? Whilst you guys are clicking like and share, I'll just check some of these comments. Chemical Tolly, all right. Much love from Kosovo. All right. You're doing it. Scorpio, all right. Ahlan wa sahlan. Serendipity. What a name. What a name. Huh? Serendipity. There's just something about that word. So, right. So, what's this? Daniel Mahmoud. Mufti, not only do people love you for being open-minded. Kya baat hai yaar, kya baat. Shukran. Orale, as you'd say. But the fact is that you're so cool. Well, I appreciate, it's as they say, bil Arabiya uyunuk, it's your eyes that see this. I didn't realize Muftis could have so much swag, good vibes. You're an inspiration doing it. Shukran, yaar, shukran. Daniel, you're doing it. It's the insight. I mean, I would just say you sound like a man of great judgment. Oh no, much love. Messing aside, I dearly appreciate it. It's the love that comes through. Right, so Claire saying Rishi Sunak needs to come on MindTrap. Indeed, he does. We should discuss the budget. That would be all right. So what is going on? Mufti, that's so true. All right. Celt's bestie. I don't know what that is. Celt's bestie. What are you sipping on, Mufti? Chai chahiye. Kaun si janab. The tea is fantastic. You know what? Whilst we're waiting to begin, while some of you are clicking like and share, and maybe some other people are logging in, because obviously, my style is always spontaneous and natural. I don't go by any set time. It's just the souls that are connected. Allah. So people get a they get an intuition and they come on. So whilst they're doing that, I can say that there was just a few words on this cricket match that happened. Now, I don't watch any sports, believe it or not. So, I mean, I genuinely, I just can't seem to see. I can understand the fascination people, not fascination, but I can understand why people get into sports because of the psychology of a sense of belonging and teams and I get that, and competition and the nature of it, but to me it just cannot I just don't gravitate towards it. It doesn't mean anything to me. Just watching, whether it's football, whether it's cricket, whether it's anything, it means zero, sifar, zilch, nothing. And that said, so there was this huge match between Pakistan and India, and Pakistan had an unprecedented win. I think something that they'd never won in decades, or in this particular series, I think, I don't know what it's called, the T something, I think they'd not ever won in this against India, and so they won, and they'd never beat India in such a way where none of the players had ever been caught out or something, and basically it was all precedented all round, and it's a huge win. So I mean, so congratulations to them for that, and to everyone who celebrates it. But it's a shame that on social media, like let's say on Instagram, I've seen some of I don't know, the news or just things being shared about the backlash in India. And it's a shame. You know, there's a lot of I read today some Muslim Indian woman teacher who's a teacher in a school got arrested and sent to prison because she said she supported Pakistan in the cricket match, and she was happy when it won, and she got they kicked up a hoo-ha, and she got arrested and got sent to prison. And I just think, where is the world going? Ya salam, that much hatred in the hearts. It's a shame, honestly. But that is, I guess, the direction of populism. If you want a world that is all about this kind of populist, Trump-esque narrative, then this is what we're kind of in. But yeah. I do think it's, sports, even though I don't really watch them or anything, but I feel that these are things in which people can have a fun rivalry, hence the saying that, be a sport, because really sports are kind of just fun ultimately. And it's just a game. And of course you take pride in winning and you want to win, and that's the nature of the competitive nature, but they should bring people together. You tried hard. What's the मुकाबला तो दिले नातवा ने खूब किया. That poem, he says it's allegedly Mir's, where he says fatao shikast to nasibon. What's the line? He says, fatao shikast to nasibon pe hai wale emir, muqabala to dile natawa ne khoob kiya. He says that defeat or victory is up to, although it is up to destiny, up to God. But he says this weak heart This poor heart of ours, it fought well. It really gave it its whole. So, muqabala dile natawane khub kiya. So, yeah, Claire saying that's what you meant to show sportsmanship. So I thought, I'd say a few words on that because I saw some of this and I just thought, ya salam. When will the world actually grow up? Imagine being grown adults and thinking like this. You're not 12 or 13 or 8. You're a grown adult and you think like this. God knows when they're going to reach their maturity. Or will it even happen? So, what else is going on? All right. Let's catch up with some of these thoughts, questions. And first of all, let me tell you what we'll be taking a look at today. So, un momentico. I'd not clicked this one before. Kamal karte ho Pandey ji. This one, man. So, okay, so you can't see it there. Let me put it like that. Giving forward, Quranic guidance. Avarice, a deadly disease, and historical incidents from the Abbasiyya, Bani al-Abbas. So what am I on about? Giving forward, I think this is something incredibly important. It's my private jet. So I want to speak a bit about this. I think this is something that is such a powerful lesson that we have to all take to heart. Because on one hand, it combines elements of ambition, giving forward, and then compassion, you see, empathy, optimism, hope. These are the ingredients in all of this. And this giving forward, giving is an art. Okay, and it is truly giving is living. And I want to speak a bit about this, take a look at some Quranic examples and take some lessons from that. But you see, with this, because it's a matter, things like this, giving, ambition, compassion, empathy, courage, it takes courage to give. All of these things are matters of the heart, if we can say that. Obviously, I mean, yeah, in many ways, one could even say, arguably, I don't know, maybe from a neuroscientific perspective as well, in time to come, since they have found a certain amount of neurons within the brain, within the heart, albeit I think 40,000 or something, which isn't it's negligible, but compared to the billions of the brain, but it's still thousands of neurons that are present. Now, you see, the heart, speaking here metaphorically, the heart also has its diseases of avarice, this greed, this this kind of this blinding hunger. You see, and it's interesting because it ties in with ambition, because ambition is the positive version and this is the negative version. And this is why I think it's so important to take a look at this, right? And then we'll come back to some questions. So let's get started. And what we'll do is I'll share the link later on as well, and you can come on live with further questions as well. So right now, we're just bringing that back up. And this is important as well, tying in with all of this. One is the unforgettable quote from Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, you've got the, as you start to walk out on the path appears. But also this of Ghalib, and I think this is something really interesting I want to come back to. Ke hasti ke mat freb mein aa jaiyo asad. Alam tamam halka hai dame khayal hai. Wow. That hasti, it's interesting because on one, it can mean being. It can also mean reality. But maybe reality as we assume it to be. Okay, so how it appears to us in its being. That hasti ke mat fareb mein aa jaiyo asad, alam tamam halkae dame khayal hai. Allah. That he says that this world, tamam halka hai, it is just a repetitive, a circular trap. Dam, trap, khayal. It is nothing but an illusory trap, an illusion that ensnares and entraps you. So be wary, okay? Because ultimately, what is everything that we know? It is but an illusion. Allah. So, jab तुझ बिन नहीं कुछ मौजूद तो फिर ये हंगामा ए खुदा क्या है. That's another one of Ghalib's, that when there is nothing except you, that it truly exists, it truly with a capital T, okay, then what is all of this after all? So ultimately, in a binary sense, it is only God that exists ultimately, that our existence in comparison to God is but an illusion in comparison. Obviously, we have our existence, but when you compare, then it doesn't exist. And so, this quote of Ghalib, by the way, I feel it's something which, see, Ghalib, in many ways, just sidetracking for a moment. I get sidetracked, man. So Ghalib, he says many things which are of a deep mystical nature. And this is why he says, Ye masail tasawwuf, ye tera bayan Ghalib. He says these issues of the path of, he says tasawwuf, of spirituality or mysticism. This what you have, this esoteric kind of knowledge, that ye masail tasawwuf ye tera bayan Ghalib, the way you explain them, Allah, tujhe hum wali samajhte jo na bada khar hota. He says we would consider you to be a wali, a person of God, if it were not for the fact that you're an alcoholic. But he says this as a joke, this part, because he says that, he's just trying to, he doesn't want to praise himself. Otherwise, he does consider himself to be amongst the awliya. But that's, up to him. I'm not trying to get into that discussion here. I'm just saying that people of wisdom have passed, and we take wisdom from everyone. Okay, you take the good and you leave anything that's bad. Nobody is perfect in that sense. We take, we hear something good, we take it, we leave it, الذين يسمعون القول فيتبعون يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. Those who hear what is said and follow that which is best. So just before getting into the lesson, Azarati, shukran, much love for the super sticker. We've got Fahad Alam, shukran. Much love to you too. 5MEO DMT. Please discuss. These things discuss themselves. who are we to discuss them? Right, so okay, a quick super chat. Shukran, Adam Mia. How do you view Ibn Arabi's Wahdat al-Wujud and its similarities to Advaita Vedanta? Right, so you see, I don't know about similar. Obviously, as human beings, there will always be similarities in certain thought processes and distinctions in others. So I have spoken on Ibn Arabi and his Wahdatul Wujud. I do have a MindTrap discussion on that with. I have that recently. I've just done that, so do check that out. That's with Sayyid Hasnain. So do check it out and go through the whole. I mean, in fact, prior to that, I have another. I must have at least about 3 MindTrap dialogues entirely on Ibn Arabi, and more to come. So do check them out, and we go through all of this kind of Wahdatul Wujud and the complexities of all of this. Obviously, these things are difficult to understand. You see, you have no frame of reference for them. So it's hard to explain to people without a frame of reference, because you can't help but frame it to whatever frame of reference you have. And reason here, the only way reason can accommodate is if you have some experience. Maybe if you are a person who walks the path, but otherwise you can't identify, because it doesn't appear logical. It's a bit like quantum physics when it's not really logical in that sense. So these things like Wahdatul Wujud, understanding concepts of non-duality, I think it's difficult to explain, because I can't say to you of non-separation, of yet still separation, the concept of observer and observed. It doesn't make sense, because then you'll think it's God, but it's not necessarily, it's not God in these understandings. So it's hard to explain because you've not ever understood anything like that. So what are you going to refer it to in your mind? And believe me, your mind is not that capable. I can assure you. Itna zor mat lagao. You won't. No need to try that hard. You ain't gonna be able to do it. You won't be able to. This is something. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. This is not an issue of intelligence. This is a matter of relatability and of comprehension based on some actual like experiential comprehension, which can't really be it can't be just understood. It can only be experienced. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. So this is why I don't like people this topic being argued or debated, or because it's a silly concept. It doesn't really make sense. Okay, it's a bit like dividing by 0. You see, if you divide by 0, what do you have? It's mad, isn't it? It's incalculable. It's not infinity. It's just malfunction. This is why Einstein said that black holes are where God divided by 0. Now, it's such a simple thing. I say to you, divide by 0. It sounds so simple. And yet the answer is bizarre. So that's how these things are. So when you want to understand them, refer back to these simple things like mathematics. That think of the other, the mathematic, that things like this, because they will then remind you how, they'll humble you. Like if I told you that in mathematics, if you added every number, 1 + 2 + 3 + 4, and you did this, and you could do this to infinity, and you could add every number, do you know what the answer would be? And the answer would be minus 1/12. That's true. And it's actually stood up and this is tested. It's not just, now, would you be able to get your head around that? So, and when you try to, you can go and you can learn, you can Google, you can YouTube, you're going to find the answer. Exactly, this is the answer. But you're going to watch them explain it to you and you're still going to feel stupid. Don't worry, it happens to the best of us. And you'll try and understand it and you'll still feel stupid. And then you'll realize, nah, munana, this is not the place for us, man. So we have to humble ourselves, trying to understand non-duality, trying to understand infinity in experience, trying to understand you can't do these things. So that's my advice to people who want to understand Wahdatul Wujud. First of all, understand why and how, like actually not just learn, try to understand things like this, like adding this component. If you added every sequence of number to infinity, why does it equal minus 1/12? Understand that. Understand it, and not just repeat it. And if you can understand it, you're one step closer to understanding Wahdatul Wujud. Then understand like division by zero and how things like this work, and understand these mathematical these kind of not paradoxes, but just conundrums. Understand them, and then you're a step closer, and you keep going, and then you'll get there. Don't hasten. Don't feel that you can simply grasp metaphysics like that so easily. You can't even grasp astrophysics. Can't even grasp physics. You can't even grasp mathematics. So ye to dur ki baatein hain babba. So these are something very, don't worry, once you've done that, then you see meta is beyond. So once you've done that with all these physics and all this, then metaphysics. So cool. Yeah, and there are other ways as well. Right, let's move on. Whoever builds his faith on deductive arguments builds a faith on which it is impossible to rely. Certainly it's not from evidence of the mind, but depths of the heart. Sure. The question. Well, I'm Hindu Mufti, so it makes sense to me. It doesn't. You just think it makes sense. There's a big difference. It doesn't make sense yet. Nah, it doesn't make sense. You just think it does. You have to step outside the self. You have to know existence without knowing the ego. These things, just because somebody says, oh, in our faith this makes sense, it still doesn't make sense to you as a person, because these are incredibly intriguing, mind-boggling concepts. They don't just, but it's just that somebody's told you, oh, it's okay, no need to panic. You can say you're okay with it. That's all. But then Muslims have said that as well. You know, Ibn Arabi, all these Muhyiddin, Maulana Rumi, many mystics have said the same thing, that it's okay. So it's not, but that said, it doesn't mean they understand it. I mean, they obviously did understand, but people later on today. Let's move on. Right, so, okay, let's come back to where we were. हस्ती के मत फरेब में आ जाइयो असद, आलम तमाम हल्का है दामे ख्याल है. Right. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We're going to take a look at 4 verses, and these are incredibly important. So, we've got a verse here from Surah Al-Baqarah, from Surah Hajj. Just put this here for a moment. Oh, no, put it over there. Right. So, وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وما تقدموا لأنفسكم من خير تجدوه عند الله إن الله بما تعملون بصير. Okay, Surah Al-Baqarah 110. Now, it's interesting because the topic is broader than just saying Salah and Zakat. But it goes on. Allah says that وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَوُا الزَّكَاةَ, but then وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, and it goes on وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُم. Now it's interesting, you see, what you give forward. What does giving forward mean? It can mean many things. You've got in the sense, you've got in the ukhrawi sense, that what you do, it betters a life to come. But you've got it right here, giving forward to people. Giving forward, making a positive difference. To give forward. وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. See, the verse says, and what you give forward, تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. It is for yourselves ultimately. Min khairin, from goodness, tajiduhu عند Allah. You will find it with God. What does that mean? That it's not going to waste. Don't think it goes unnoticed. Tajiduhu عند Allah. You don't need social media. You don't need to catch it on Instagram. You don't need to make a video about it. And you don't need to, but then you feel, yaar, nobody noticed. Noticed, man. Nobody noticed. وَمَا تَقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُم مِّنْ خَيْرٍ. But, I did this. Yes, you did it for you. See, Allah, it's very real. It's not saying, oh, you did it for you, but that's okay. You can do things for you. You can help people because it also helps you. People don't see it. تَجِدُوهُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. And then Allah said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. You see? Doesn't matter if people don't see, Allah sees. See, that certain things are so common sense, but it's such a reminder that, first of all, altruism, positivity, charity, humanitarianism, helping, giving forward, an element of it is for you. But there's nothing wrong with that. You see, there's nothing wrong with that. Let me tell you something. If you want to increase in happiness, you want to, because this is the elixir, the holy grail of our times, happiness. In search of the holy grail. Happiness, it doesn't come to you. I mean, it momentarily comes through acquisition, products, materials. It does come, but these are spikes. It spikes up, spikes back down. Okay, these things. This is called acquisition spikes of happiness. So you are happy. You've got a brand new car. You're over the moon. But it will last about 2 months, 3 months, and then it will standardize. It'll turn normal again. Okay. You've purchased something new. You've made a certain amount of money. It is slightly different if you were below the poverty line and made money. The happiness usually is of a varied nature. But if you were okay before, but you made an exceptional amount of money, you do become happy, but it's maybe about 3 months to 6 months. And there's been longitudinal studies on this that have followed several participants or subjects that were lottery winners, for example. And so people think, well, okay, well, what makes me happy? You see, it's not these things. Even finding a spouse, finding a partner, finding a wife, a husband, falling in love. Love, man. The love, man. The love. It makes people happy, man. But it's a spike as well. So, so how does a person actually raise happiness? How do you raise it? Because it can be done to a certain extent. Now, we do have a default setting, whatever our default setting is, but you can train yourself to slightly raise it. Let's say there's a well-being, a happiness, an affectometer, which measures happiness. So 1 being miserable and 10 being, the ceiling of happiness, let's say. Now, let's say if people are at 5 by default, nothing's happening, you're at 5. Or maybe some people by default are at 6. They're slightly more happier and some people may be the other way. Now, genetics may play a small part in that, but you can train yourself to kind of increase that happiness to some extent. You can go up a notch, maybe 2, you understand? Now, how do you do it? Because yes, if you got a brand new car, you might jump up to 10, to 9, but then 3 months later, you're back down. This happens through meaning. Okay, because you've got the acquisition spike versus the rising horizon of happiness. The horizon rises gradually, but it's sustained. So it's things like meaning in life. And a huge part of meaning is going to be internal as well, understanding. This is why people who've done things like travel the world, they end up with a higher level of happiness sometimes, because it's not the travel. See, it's the meaning they got when they met people, learned their stories, developed a human connection. Now, counterintuitively, this is counterintuitive. One of the things that surprisingly, it's like God's cheat. God has hidden a cheat in this, and it's counterintuitive. It's hidden in plain sight, but you're not going to guess it. And that is, it's hidden in giving. That happiness is hidden in giving. And you think, what kind of logic is that? How can giving make you better? I mean, you'd rather getting should make you better. But no, that's the secret. It's in giving. And it's hidden just in plain sight. So these verses that we see now, look at this second verse that we've got here as well. In Surah Al-Hajj, you've got it there, verse 35. You've got الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم والصابرين على ما أصابهم والمقيم الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. Okay. Now, those who, when God, you see, now this could be when God is mentioned, people say. But another way of looking at this is when God is remembered in their presence. You see what happens? Wajilat qulubuhum. It has an awe-striking effect. Why? Because they have a connection. So now check this. Wajilat qulubuhum was-sabirina ala ma asabahum. Now, why is sabirina mansub? Why is it not sabiruna? Those of you that are Arabic buffs, because it ought to be, just see, ought to be والصابرون على ما أصابهم, but it's mansoob because أخص, this is being على التخصيص, this is being specified. It's like it's being highlighted. والصابرين على ما أصابهم, those who are patient with difficulties in life or afflictions. Why? Because think about it, life is going to be full of these things. And the more patience you have in the face of any challenge in life develops that meaning. It adds to your story. وَالْمُقِيمِ الصَّلَاةِ, and people who, they have this connection through prayer, that they have that spirituality to them. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ, see, and it's sealed with what? مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, and with what we have given them. You see, now it's interesting. It begins by Allah saying, it could be that, and those who give, but مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ. It's a reminder that, remember, this actually was bestowed upon you. It's a gift. Give forward. Reminding you, and I think it's so amazingly done, because it could just say those who give from what they have, but it's reminding, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. So you've got these, and tying in with that, you've got these verses right here. وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ. Now this is bringing us straight to, from Surah Ibrahim, that remember or be mindful when Allah said, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. You know, if I can tell you to just memorize one, like a mantra that you always have just there in the mental backdrop, have this, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. That if you are grateful, I will increase you. وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. And those who transgress, and you have to remember the truer meanings of kufr, not just kufr in that sense, a deeper level of the transgression, that then the consequences are harsh. But remember, just the لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. And you know what's interesting? This verse, I thought I'll share this as well. Surah Baqarah 263. قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذًى. This is so important, and it's going full circle to where we began. وَاللَّهُ غَنِيٌّ حَلِيمٌ. See, قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ. Sometimes you can't give. You know, you just, or maybe you can, but it's difficult. And giving doesn't just mean money. Okay. It could be help. It could be a kind word. It could be a smile. It could be assistance. It could be compassion. It could be empathy. It could, giving forward, it could be an opportunity to someone. Giving forward is not just about money. In fact, that's just a small part of it. It's a mindset. See, it's a winner's mindset. It's true, you know, like you'll find people who are truly, you know, incredibly successful. Many of them will have this quality. It's a mindset, you see, to give forward. But at times we won't be able to, or we won't want to. Let's just be honest. Yeah. We won't want to. It could be to just can't be bothered, or we don't want to. We feel, I don't. قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ. Allah says, brings it up, Surah Baqarah, that look, قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ. You know, just pardon me. And say a nice word instead. Ever so sorry, I can't. Somebody, you know, they call you, oh, listen, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? You know, it's putting you out too much. You're like, I'm sorry. I'm a bit caught up. My apologies. Can you give a hand with this? Afraid I can't. my apologies. You know, a nice word, kind word, polite, and you just seek pardon. قول معروف ومغفرة خير من صدقة يتبعها أذى. This is so much better, it mentions, than trying to do a good deed, but following it up with some form of hurtful words or harm. You know, you do some, and you say to them, oh, I did this for you. Or maybe you do something, maybe some kind of, you I don't know, you, or even this, you're about to give someone something, but let me record, let me make a film and put you all over, blast your, you know, maybe people are okay with it, maybe some people ain't. They feel humiliated that, you know, I'm this person that, you know, this social media gratification, this object of that. So better than that, you helping the person and trying to, hey, me. قول معروف ومغفرة. It's better that you don't do it rather than it cause harm. Remember, many of the ulama would say as well that, you know, even giving zakat to someone and not telling them that it's zakat. Why? Because it would, just in case it kind of hurts them, to think, bloody hell, I'm a charity case. You know, it could hurt someone. So this is the kind of the what you're seeing in this ayah, that قول معروف ومغفرة خير من صدقة يتبعها أذى والله غني حليم. So this is really a mindset, people. Develop a mindset, and it's really for all of us. And we can think of, you know, these were some hadith I thought that, you know, on this topic. So my bad. There it is, right? This is just once again showing that, look, ما من مسلم يغرس غرسا ويزرع زرعا فيأكل منه الطير وإنسان وبهيمة إلا كان له به صدقة. That, look, it's not just this giving forward is a mindset. That's in Sahih al-Bukhari. It's not about, it could be planting something, a seed. It could be about doing something in nature. It's not about money. It's not about things. It's a mindset. Okay, this positivity that you want to contribute some kind of positivity to the world. That's what it's about. So the Prophet said, look, a person, he plants a tree, sows a seed, a bird comes, eats from it, an animal, a person, they take shelter under it, they do what? This is all a charity. It's all sadaqah. And the other hadith here in Tirmidhi, that Ya Aisha ahib al-masakin, love people who are poor. This is a command, instruction. وَقَرِّبِيهِمْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يُقَرِّبُكَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. That, you know, don't kind of shun these people away. Allah will keep you close on the day of judgment. Now, this is in the afterlife. Once again, just, you know, because people naturally can have that. So I thought this is, and with that, the final, these hadith, because people often ask, is this a hadith that tabassumuk fi wajhi akhik laka sadaqa, that just smiling to someone is giving? And what's one of the, to seal this, what's one of the greatest fears of giving is lacking. One of the greatest fears of giving is losing. You're losing out. If I'm giving something, if I'm giving assistance, I'm losing time. If I'm giving, you know, wealth, I'm losing money. And this hadith that you have there in Sahih Muslim, ma naqasat sadaqa min mal, that this never decreases wealth. Allah will increase it and give barakah. وَمَا زَادَ اللَّهُ عَبْدًا بِعَفْوٍ إِلَّا عِزًّا. That, you know, through forgiveness, this is also about giving, as in giving forward forgiveness. Allah always honors such a person. وَمَا تُوَاضَعَ أَحَدٌ لِلَّهِ إِلَّا رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ. Nobody humbles themselves for the sake of God except Allah exalts them in the eyes of mankind. So these are such an important lesson I wanted to share. And it really, you contrast it with the other side of this kind of bukhal, this kind of miserliness, withholding, this avarice, this greed, this, and you have the Prophet teaching us a dua, seek refuge. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-bukhl. I look at this, look how important. I seek refuge from being miserly and stingy. And once again, it's not just about money, it's a mindset. Change the mindset and you'll see how opportunities in life around you will change. So that's so important, seriously. It's with anything, people talk to me. It's actually a winner's mindset. You can use it in anything in life. It could be in your personal issues, it could be in relationships, it could be in business, it could be in anything. You see, people often want to, I get people sometimes, I've said this to people, not that I'm interested in people necessarily sending things. I'll have people say to me sometimes, I'll have people message me, oh, Mufti, can you advertise this for me, my business? And I don't do that. I don't advertise people's businesses and things like this. I mean, generally, I don't do stuff like that. So, and I remember once, this is an example. Somebody once, I saw somebody's artwork. They did some artwork, and it was like Islamic artwork, and I liked it. So I did kind of just share it on my Insta story, saying, "Wow, this is amazing." And things like that make sense. You share people's things, and if it kind of strikes a chord. But this is just an example, just to share a mindset. You see, that this person had asked or made a mention that, look, Mufti, can you share my thing for, so I could get business, so I could get sales, so I could get this and that. And my point was that, and I said, well, look, is that really, I said, well, first of all, I don't do that. Secondly, is this really a way that you'd approach people? Because that's not a mindset. That's not a winner's or a champion's mindset. You see, I said, like, here's a thought. I said, imagine, let's say in artwork, I said, imagine you'd done a piece of art for me. Not that I want a piece of art, I don't. But I'm just saying, imagine you'd done that, said, hey, this is for you. Now, this is a case study. I'm just citing as a case study. Now, what would have that done to me and my psyche immediately in the moment? I would have been captivated. I would have been just, you see, indebted, just like, wow, like, whoa, okay, for me, what, really? I would have definitely said, wow, this is, people, check this out, check this, check that. You see, this is with everyone, with businesses. I've had people speak to me, oh, look, listen, I've been dealing with this new business and I've been doing this, and how do I, oh, it doesn't seem to be taking off, it doesn't seem to be doing this. And I've said to them, why haven't you just done several pro bono, the free products, and given them to people? Why haven't you done that already? It's a great way to showcase your work. You may consider it wasting your time, but it's investing your time. It's a mindset. It's a mentality of not just taking, of giving, you see. And it's the effect that has on mankind, on people. You see, as the poet, there's an Arabic poem that أحسن إلى الناس تستعبد قلوبهم فلطالما استعبد الإنسان إحسان. That, you see, you do good to people, you captivate their hearts, because ihsan, kindness, it always captures the heart. Now, and the verse of the Quran, and one way of looking at this verse, check this, هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان. We got to do a whole session on that another time, because that's such an amazing ayah. Because one way of looking at it is the reward of kindness, accept kindness as in God will be kind to you. But another way of looking at it is hal jaza'ul ihsani illa al-ihsan. Is there a reward for kindness? And this, can there be a reward for that except the act itself? Because that is the reward. See, it's a winner's mindset, and it's so important. And I think it helps in every aspect of life. You could be, it could be in your personal, in your anything, in work, in relationships, in any, you have that mindset. As the Prophet said, that the hand that gives is better than the hand that takes. So the giving, giving forward. Okay, people, may Allah make things easy. That I thought was today's interesting and important lesson. Let's, what I'm going to do is, okay. Right, okay. Right, people, anyone trolling, people don't usually troll, but the person trolling there has been blocked. Right, so somebody said, I see Saracen like shareware, you give one part of a product for free and people like it, they can pay for the rest. Yeah, but it's you know what it is? It's a winner, it's an entrepreneur's mindset. You think big, the bigger picture. You give forward. Right. Okay, let's take a look, people. Let's take a look at some of the, I missed some questions, I think. There was a super chat. I'll go to that. I see Saracen, you're doing it, yar. Much love with the super chat. Mufti, the 3 levels of faith, Ihsan, Iman, and Islam, are they 3 equal parts of the deen, or are they separate rank levels of the deen? I would say they are different dimensions of the deen. Okay, so you have Islam, which would be the perceptible, the kind of structure, the whatever can be seen of Islam, whatever that means, rituals, laws, rulings, celebrations, festivals, identities, food, culture, anything that you can see and associate, artifacts, symbols, these are all Islam. Iman is the story that is within the mind and heart. That's what it is. That's a different dimension. Okay. And then Ihsan is a whole different dimension. It is the qualitative dimension. Now, that all of these will fluctuate. Naturally, that will fluctuate as well. And it's so, mesmerizingly, beautifully expressed that, أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه. You see, all of a sudden, it's as though you can now see God. But if you can't, then you have the awareness and knowledge that he sees you. It's interesting, such a mesmerizing way to say it. Right, so, okay, what is going on, people? Right, let me just take a look. Mufti Ji, shukran. Shukran. Much love. Mufti is Naswar permitted. What's Naswar? Snuff. I think it's called snuff, isn't it? Or am I mixing it up? But it's I think according to some, It's just, I think I don't know, I think maybe they put it up their nose originally, but in places like some parts of Pakistan, what they do is they stick it up by the gum. And it's a tobacco. I think it's tobacco. I'm not sure. It may have some other elements to it as well, but it provides a kind of buzz, and also, I think if I'm correct, a kind of high, not an actual high as in an energy. It energizes the people. From what I obviously looks. I mean, when I suppose when they put it by the gum, you can't really see. But it's the spitting and things. I don't think that's very pleasant. And yeah, so that's what it is. You see, it's not something haram. I wouldn't say it's haram. Is it's an extremely tough category, because it's very harsh in Islam. But there is a spectrum between haram and where something is good and halal. So things like this are not good for you. They're not healthy. They don't. They create a dependency. They create gum disease. In many of these people, I think it's generated gum disease, and it may also create some kind of gum cancer. But it's not usually. It inhibits communication in a lot of things, because the way people kind of speak. I know in Karachi, I lived in a whole Pakhtun region. Live in Banaras, in Karachi, and but it's a common thing with the Pathan society over there. So they would all have, and some of my relatives are Pakhtun, so they would all take that, and it was. So it does, it kind of slurs so it kind of slurs communication. The spitting isn't necessarily help. It's not as bad as the pan spitting, which is crazy, but the whole point is it's not something good for you. It takes away from your class, but I wouldn't say it's haram, but it would definitely not be good. It wouldn't be a good thing. Yeah. I hope that helps. Is that not chewing? Mufti, you tried Naswar? No, I've never tried. Alhamdulillah, I've never. Never really felt a need for. You see, for something to make me high, unless it's natural things like obviously like coffee and stuff like that, or that stuff I'm like everyone else in, or maybe a pre-workout drink to kind of get you in the mode. But I've never, this thing of, and I hate the concept of dependency. So I would never want to be dependent, although one could argue we're maybe dependent on coffee to some extent, or maybe we're dependent on these things, but I don't like the concept of dependencies and creating unnecessary dependencies. I don't like that. Allah, look at this. I started listening to Jaun Elia after you. Vah. Jaun Elia is a legend, absolute legend, people. But most poets are, that's the thing. Poets, they have an insight to reality that your common person doesn't. And I feel in many ways poets are connected. They have a powerful connection with the divine. Because you see, poetry in essence is experiential. It's less about comprehension, although naturally it's going to be understood, obviously, but it's about the experience, the kayfiyah. That's why it's so powerful. Don't you think so? Yeah. Why not? Huh? Why not? Jaun Elia. मैं जो हूँ जॉन इलिया हूँ जनाब, इसका बेहद लिहाज कीजिएगा. Allah. He says, after all, I am Jaun Elia. He says that it's necessary, if you like, or it's with an emphasis. He's saying that do keep that in mind. Hoka, Sheikh Asrar recently got COVID. COVID escaped because Asrar wanted to debate to be using Rashid. Yeah, come on, yar. I've said actually previously that look, may Allah grant him shifa, and everyone, it's sad. Honestly, it is. I'm not saying just with Sheikh Asrar, with anyone. With Sheikh Asrar, I personally sent him a message, although he didn't respond. But I was genuine in my message. I would, if he needed anything, I would help him if I could with something. But yeah, this COVID thing, it is, it's like Russian roulette, isn't it? It could do nothing. It could be brushed past. You don't even know. Maybe you look like you've got a cold. Maybe you look like you've got a flu. Maybe you're kind of knocked out with it, quite serious, like you've got pneumonia. Maybe you're dead. It's just like a roll of the dice. There's I don't know if I mentioned this before, but there's a family that are in the neighborhood, and I know of them. I don't personally know them so well, but they've got a little daughter just one daughter was a class friend of Layla, so she's 10, and so it's just this daughter, and it's the husband and wife, and the wife, that too was from abroad, although I believe she's been here several years now. But the father, this person, he got COVID, and this is just in the last few months, and it developed, and he seemed to be, I'm pretty sure he was only in his late 30s, and it just developed, and it just kind of progressed rapidly, and he deteriorated, and he went to, then his breathing got impacted, and he thought, don't worry, and then he went to hospital. He was hospitalized, and oxygen, and it wasn't working, and then on the ventilator with the kind of artificial lung, they had him on that, and he was there for weeks on end. I think maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks or something, I don't know. And the doctors said that he can't, the lungs are not responding. So they said, we're going to switch it off. We're going to remove him from the apparatus because it's not working, and the equipment. So what they did was they woke him up, and because he was comatose whilst on the equipment, they woke him up and told him that, we're going to switch this off. And in that time, he kind of sent a text message to his daughter, who is Layla's age and Layla's friend, and just bidding farewell, and just asking her to take care of her mother and stuff like this. And this, and then he, in the coming hours, or maybe the coming day or something, just passed away because lungs weren't responding. They were too weak. And it really was so shocking to hear this. Wallahi, especially the details of it, and especially, I don't know, the fact that they woke him up. I just found it like, is that, I don't know, like, I get it that he got to write a text message, but I don't know if that's what you'd want to be woken up to, because it's a sheer helplessness. May Allah make it easy for their family. May Allah bless his afterlife, and may Allah make it easy for anyone battling these things. And this is why this is why I advise not to kind of make fun or this and that of people who are hospitalized or ill with this. May Allah grant them all shifa. Ameen. But yeah, it was a very, I have to say, really, I was shaken to my core with the details of this story. And I suppose because it was real. As in, I've seen their daughter with Layla, and I've seen it. So it just made it so much more, sent shivers. But it reminds us, people, once again, every moment what we are grateful for comes back to that thing. And if we're grateful, give forward. Because we have this, yeah. So, all right, Mufti, what's this? Why, Mr. Mr. Hung, Mufti is the best hand, helped me grow as a Muslim. Shukran, much love. I appreciate it. Yeah, red pill. Yeah, it's like kind of like the hard truth kind of thing. Mufti, subhanallah, seem to be a lot of question on 5MEO. You know what? I'm going to do a MindTrap with someone about this. Do they not transport people into the jinn realm? What is the jinn realm? I do believe it's to do with the ruh. That's what it is. I believe it's to do with consciousness, and it takes you in the world of consciousness and lowers your plane of consciousness to that level where you are. Obviously, it's very, very profound, incredibly profound, overwhelming. Yeah. So these things are not to be taken lightly. See, they are. One must, often is the case, undergo a death. It's a terribly dark, overwhelming, and heart-wrenching experience. It would be the worst experience ever. And it would be timeless when it happens. These things are not light. But yes, like many things, beyond it and with it, there is a realization of what ultimately life is, what the soul, consciousness, the presence of God, this dunya, and its illusory allure. That hasti ke mat freb mein aa jaiyo asad, alam tamam halkae dame khayal hai. That this, that innamal hayatu dunya la'ibun wallahu, that it's just like a game. It's just an allure. It's an illusion. That's what it is. These things, and I think these things are not for everyone. Not for everyone. Definitely not for the faint of heart, but not for everyone at all. I think these things are for people. The path will call people. It will call them. That's how it works. Right. So, right. Then there is ease. Inna ma'al usri yusra. True. There is ease. There is ease, but yeah, it is something. Right. Soul is separate from body itself, is called soul. Yeah, the soul is consciousness. Now, whatever that means, I'll leave it to you. Mufti, can you get Ridwan back on MindTrap, please? Ridhi, yes, of course. I can get Ridhi. Ridwan Abdul Kareem. He's Karnal. This is our homie. This is absolutely I can get. And there's been a lot of changes in the Mamlaka in Saudi, so I'm sure it would be interesting to chat to Ridhi. Mufti, can you invite to MindTrap Dr. Hany Atchan, Marvelous Quran? Right, I was told this last time, so I did check out Marvelous Quran on YouTube. Seemed interesting, seemed kind of similar to my kind of views, not entirely, but similar-ish, that kind of call towards reason and very understanding. So and I did like some of the things. Some of the theories were very different to how I would explain them, but still it's a very similar kind of, there's definitely a similar path. So I did connect with, I did find Dr. Hany on Instagram and messaged him, but he said he was busy and said that, look, he's doing his things, and maybe he said in the future if he frees up. So yeah, so but his videos, some of them are very interesting. Do check that out? It's on YouTube. All right, so 5. Somebody else said, where did it go? It's moved away now. Somebody had said, I don't recommend some of the other. Kya baat hai. Ridwan Ibn Battuta. Really is a legend. Mufti, does Islam allow dueling? Can I duel a Muslim? What's dueling? Oh, duel as in duel a Muslim to the death. Like fight them to the death if he dishonors me in medieval Europe. Of course you can't. What are you, an animal? See, so nope, you can't fight someone to the death. Basically, can I commit murder if somebody dishonors me? Wow. So yeah. Consciousness is like a sense of awareness. It's more than that, but it depends what a person means by consciousness, because consciousness on one, it's used in many terms, like is he unconscious, is he conscious? That's not what is meant by consciousness here. You're right, it's a kind of awareness, but it's a realization. It's not just, animals are aware, but they're not conscious the way we have consciousness. So there are, I guess, planes of consciousness, and it's a spectrum. And it's like saying, the best way to explain it is it's like being online. Whilst animals, plants, these other things, even if they are on a spectrum of consciousness, it's all offline. But with humans, it suddenly connects. It's like the lights are on all of a sudden. It's a difference. And that is something very unique to Homo sapiens, and beginning with Adam alayhi salam and us. So we have this consciousness, and it's not necessarily an advantage from an evolutionary perspective. And it's very new from an evolutionary perspective. So what is this one? It's a mystery. But that is, I would translate that as the ruh. So yeah. Mad Max, shukran, much love for the super chat. You're doing it, yar. What is your opinion on that, the jinn, on what the jinn are, what is meant by them in the Quran? Yeah, but I didn't understand. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult because, you see, because we don't know what the jinn means. We are all too often just seeking very simplistic, nice, ship-shaped, boxed answers, but we don't know what this means. In the Quran, the word jinn is used to mean different things at different times. It just means something that is veiled, that is that it's not that, it just seems to highlight that there exists something beyond or in addition to humans. There exists something, but it doesn't really explain what that thing is or what these things are. And jinn doesn't, when it's used in the Quran, doesn't always mean the jinn as people have understood them. So for example, the majority, you'd be surprised to know, like if you read Imam Nawawi or Imam Qurtubi on the verse of the Quran where it speaks of Iblis, kana min al-jinn fafasaqa an amri rabbi. Kana min al-jinn, they say, does not mean he's from the jinn. They actually believe he was an angel. He's a fallen angel, which is very biblical in that sense. But it's what they say. The majority of the scholars believe that jinn is Iblis is, Iblis is a variant of the Greek diabolus, which this devil, this thing is a fallen angel. So he's not from the jinn. So they say, well, what does jinn here in this verse mean then? They say, no, jinn here just means something else, and they explain it, and it's a different time. So jinn does not mean one particular thing. And yeah, so it can mean a series of things. We just won't know. It's hard to explain. People say, well, what do you think? Do you think they're human beings? Like they're like these kind of humans that live like us? No, what makes you think they have to be like that? You see, what if they are entities that exist within the forces? I'm just saying, what if they did in that realm? Now, you'd be like, what? Doesn't make sense. But yeah, I get that. But what if they did exist in at a different plane of existence? So for example, let's just say how you'd have, I'm not saying this is it, but I'm just throwing a spanner in the works, that let's say you have the fundamental four forces within, within the cosmos. So you'll have gravity, you'll have electromagnetism, you have the strong nuclear force, you have the weak nuclear force. But within these forces, you then have these bosons that exist. Now, the bosons exist within that realm. And it's so for example, photons acting for that within the electromagnetism, but whether gluons or gravitons have been hypothesized. But let's say within these realms, that's these forces. Then according to string theory, just to give you an example, because you're going by the world around you, and this is physics explaining the world around you, that let's say within physics, let's say string theory, you've got the 10 dimensions. Now, arguably in string theory, gravity is through dimensions. This is why it's weak, you see, because we don't understand why gravity is weak. But it's weak because it's coming through dimensions. Now, I'm not saying that jinn are gravity, but what I'm saying is within the forces exist fields. So, for example, mass emerges through the Higgs field, which fundamentally would have the Higgs boson, but this is what then gives rise to mass. So within the fields, what if these entities exist? You see, what I'm saying is that you are viewing it in a very simplistic, kid-like, childlike manner. It's like a little child trying to understand something complicated. Explaining to a 4-year-old, for example, if you had to explain to a 4-year-old, I don't know, you had to explain something incredibly complicated, or if they had to understand something very complicated, but obviously they can't, but they would just look at it in a simple, they would just make like some simple thing and just say, well, this, it can be called this, and this can be called this, and these two are friends. Like they might say, well, These forces, the nuclear force is a friend of and you see, now this is their world. They're just 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds. Now they don't understand it. They're just making some weird approximation for their age. So that's what you're doing fundamentally, and you're making an approximation to your mindset, and your mindset is incredibly lacking, just as everyone's is. If you think about it, that we and matter fundamentally is like 99% not there. It's empty. Like we're empty. Like if you think about an atom, we're made up of atoms, and it's all made up of empty space. It's so counterintuitive. It's crazy. Because if you think of, we're fundamentally just empty space, but we're not empty space though. So it's, you see, you can't, like when I tell you that we are just made up of molecules and made up of atoms, which are just made up of mainly empty space. So they say that, let's say an atom, because an atom in it, you're going to have the nucleus, and then you're going to have, like, let's say protons or electrons just kind of moving about, but that's it. But it's all other than that's empty space. So they say, let's say the solar system is an atom, and then the nucleus would only be like a tree on Earth, and the rest is what then? It's just empty. But yet it's not empty to us. So, that's why لا تدرك الأبصار وهو يدرك الأبصار. See, you can't see it. You can't fathom it. And but taking a simple kids version, childlike version, you can, but it's not going to be reality. But you could say, oh, jinn are they're like human beings that walk around, they're made out of fire, and they, that we just can't see them. And that's like a child's version of, it's like Jack and the Beanstalk kind of version that you tell children. But if it helps people, that's fine. If it helps you to believe that jinn are like humans, except they're like fiery. What's that action figure? The one that kind of walks as fire. Let's say that's what you think jinn look like, then fine. They don't, but that's okay. If it helps you in your world, then that's okay. You can believe it. The truth is, we just don't know. When we come to learn of greater reality and physics, we may never come to understand what jinn and these things, but maybe we might get closer. If you want to understand reality, start understanding physics, because that is an observation of reality, the cosmos, especially astrophysics, and understanding that, because that's the closest you'll ever get to understanding reality. And jinn and these things are a part of reality. And if that's too complicated, which it is, then just accept that this is complicated. I can't. And I think this is one of the unfortunate things where religion has kind of been pushed away from from science, because people think, I don't want to learn about science, I want to learn about religion, but really it was all one. Allah says, أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ do they not look at the world around them? قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانْظُرُوا, go about the earth and observe. Why? Because by observing, you'll understand God. And you'll understand creation. That's the answer. So yeah. ¿Cómo estás? I'm from the UK. I don't know. Right, people don't know spamming, so be wary. En el nombre de Allah te deseo lo mejor a ustedes. Muchas gracias y a ti. All right, so I'm in, is that New Jersey? But parents are Dominican. Dominicano. All right. Orale, hermano. Que lo que? Que lo que? Doing it. All right. So, okay. Right. Yeah. So, before I share the. Oh, right. I've got a little story for you guys. Yeah. Story time, man. Story time. So, since we were taking a look today at giving forward and avarice and this whole diseases of the heart, في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا. When they have diseases in the heart, these are abstract diseases, not cardiovascular, but Allah increases them. So this a story or an incident or some history comes straight to mind, people. Kya baat hai, yaar, kya baat hai. Let me just bring this. All right, people. So, where's it gone? Oh, there it is. All right. People, let me take you back to some incidents from the time of Bani al-Abbas. All right. This is Ghalibs and Sodas, but that's not what we want to focus on. Al-Mutawakkil. Those of you that remember, shukran, much love, muchas gracias, hermano, right? So, those of you that remember, we discussed previously in one of the sessions, we'd spoken about Harun al-Rashid and the whole incident, but Harun al-Rashid, the point being, an anchor point. And you remember there was, after him, there was this thing of the Abbasids had this trend or this tradition where they would try to list a few caliphs after them in succession to kind of maintain the peace. So they couldn't choose between the kids. And they're trying to give forward. So after Harun al-Rashid, there was, you had the Amin and Ma'mun, and that's a nightmare. And we'll cover that another time. But they had another brother as well, sibling, Mu'tasim. And that's interesting because, Mu'tasim, he's obviously carries on that whole incident of the Fitnatul Quran. But he is, in his time, he does try to structure the state, the dynasty. And what he does is he sets up a new city, Samarra, which is in modern-day Iraq. And it's probably about 100 miles from north of Baghdad. And he sets this up, and in Arabic they would refer to it sometimes as Surah Man Ra'a, but it's Samarra. And he has it as a garrison kind of town, has his armies there, and he wants to gain strength, because you have to keep in mind what Amin and Ma'mun, they'd kind of destroyed Baghdad and fighting and all this stuff. And there's the fear, because look, his own brothers, you'd had you'd had fratricide. They'd killed each other. So even though, okay, there's no brothers left, but the threat is from those that are close to you. What's the that but the point is that the threat is from those around you. You're more weary about them. So, and we'd heard about the Baramika incident, the Persians, and them getting into immense power. So Mu'tasim in his time thought, you know what, we can't rely on the Persians. He begins to bring in the Turks. And this is where history is once again set into motion. But first, what you had with the Persians now becomes a long legacy of the Turks. And the Turks come in because he thinks, well, I can trust these people. they ain't going to try and take me over. Nobody's going to, take them as rulers. And whereas I can't trust the Arabs, or I can't trust Bani al-Abbas, they're too close to me, and so on. So he has his special guards and this infantry, and gains this loyalty, and he sets up this garrison town in Samarra, and then he invests in it as a city, and it becomes this thriving city. And now after him, you have the same problem. You see, the same parampara, the tradition, that it's his kids. He has to put them in command. So what he does is the same thing that had happened many generations back when it was with Harun al-Rashid, that will set this brother first, then this brother, then this brother. So you had al-Wathiq. So there were generally the three. Al-Wathiq is to be the next. And then after al-Wathiq, the other brother, it will be al-Mutawakkil. And then it will be al-Musta'in. And al-Mutawakkil is the one I want to really speak about. Share his incident. But this is the build-up here. We've got to build up to it, man. So what happens is al-Wathiq, after al-Mu'tasim, al-Wathiq comes in. He continues the inquisition of the creation of the Quran, and he continues that legacy. He rules for a little while, and he's got his kind of power, but after him he has his kids, but after him it does toe the line. It's the brother Mutawakkil. Now Mutawakkil comes in, and things are going good. They're in Samarra, they're in this new capital, it's thriving. They have this kind of Turkic infantry, and these many people in the ranks, and people of immense power, and they've got glory and capital and opulence and affluence and prosperity and this money galore, and as it ought to be. It's the dunya, why not enjoy it? And one of the things when fine dining in this dunya is the gentler other. दो लफ्जों में पोशीदा कुल मेरी कहानी है, एक लफ्ज मोहब्बत है, एक लफ्ज जवानी है. He says, my whole story can be wrapped up and concealed in these two words. One is love, man, and the other is youthfulness. So like many a lover before him, al-Mutawakkil, the one who relies, Allah, al-Mutawakkil Allah. And this was an Abbasi trend, by the way, to have these names that are these honorifics. This was an Abbasi thing. It's a very stylish thing, I have to say. So that everybody had to choose a name that was something to do with God, like the one who's victorious by God, or reliant upon God, or the one who, like you had Ar-Rashid, the guided with God, or Al-Hadi, and all these names. So, yeah, Al-Mutawakkil. So things are going epic. He's building, and he builds he's also, Al-Mutawakkil is the one who's built this, by the way. The spiral minaret that you can see, they call it Al-Mi'dhana Al-Malwiya. It's still there in Iraq. It's a UNESCO site, I believe. And it's about 50 meters tall, and it's built on an ancient structure. This was the minaret, if you like. This kind of style. They call it Al-Malwiya, that which kind of goes round. And this was built by Mutawakkil. And that's an alleged kind of in a coin. You can see that little picture of his. I don't know if that's really going to work if he was lost and we were trying to find him with that picture. Anyway, as the riches have flown in, and so Mutawakkil also has his far and wide stretching harem, of concubines. As one must, of course. So they say it said 4,000, this is what some narrations say, concubines. And historians go out of their way to highlight that all of whom had been graced with the royal sexual audience by the caliph himself. I mean, just, yeah, pausing for a moment, yaar, kuch break lete hain, yaar. Un momentico. I mean, just looking at the mathematics of that, is that like if you're going at the rate of, I don't know, 3 on a daily basis, in a whole year, that's only just 1,000. I mean, so this is like 3-4 years of a project. Khalifa Waqt. Khalifa was quite busy, as you can see, attending to royal matters. But amidst all of this, amidst doing the delivering, serving, giving forward to the ummah. Amidst his servitude, the Khilafah is not for anyone and everyone. It has great burdens with it. So whilst doing this, there is a story of a character or a personality that stands out in Abbasid history. A woman, Allah, known as Qubayha or Qabiha, which means ugly, but she was breaks. We've got to introduce this character. So Qubayha, some people say Qabiha, same thing. I mean, makes no difference. Some people read it as Qubayha. She was a Roman girl that was born. The family had converted to Islam. They were of Roman origin. She was incredibly beautiful. From birth, people could see that what a beautiful child. They could just see, wow, this girl going on will become something so, just look at her. So the parents, out of fear of, let's say, the evil eye, what some people would do is they would name someone by contrast to kind of, so it doesn't draw attention to her. So they named her ugly. They named her Qabiha, or you could say Qubayha al-Rumiya. So just so it doesn't draw people's attention to her. So if people say, who is she? She's the ugly duckling. But she's actually incredibly beautiful. So as she comes of age and she matures, she has this outstanding, this captivating beauty, electrifying beauty to her. And she's cultured and developed and incredibly eloquent. She's a poetess. So she only befits royalty. So, and as you know, al-Mutawakkil in his time, there's no shortage in the royal harem, but is there room in the inn? There's always room in the inn. Kamal karte ho yaar. There's always room in the inn. As the famous saying goes, that dil mein jagah honi chahiye. There must be a place in the heart, man. There's always, as long as there's space in the heart, there's always space. So what happens is she's presented to al-Mutawakkil that, would you like to glorify further your royal palace with another? It's difficult. I know the numbers are already high and you have a hard task, but would you like to? So Mutawakkil was like, hi, yaar. Neki or pooch. He said, like, a good deed and you're wasting time in asking? Of course, I'm ready here. I'm at your service. A las órdenes. A las órdenes. So now Qubayha Rumia is in the royal palace and she's captivating. Not just her beauty. You see, beauty is one thing. Personality is the stake in the heart then. You see, because somebody could just be incredibly beautiful, but if their personality is a bit bland, they don't really have a personality, then, see, beauty can capture in the moment, but it doesn't keep. But what absolutely encapsulates the heart are the personality. So she had a striking personality, poetry, art, literature, eloquence, a refined character. So she very swiftly started to rise in the ranks, especially amongst the concubines. She rose, and she became like a favorite. And from there, almost like a confidant, rather. Qubayha's doing it, man. She's doing it. So she's got the caliph's ear. She's got his attention. And so they say, let me give you an example. And this isn't just as this is happening, she's also catching the attention of people as well. Because, she has this charm, this enchanting personality. And some of the, the people can notice this, the kind of ministers, the wuzara and these people. On this one occasion, al-Mutawakkil was ill. And he was quite seriously ill, and they said to him that, look, there's a way to get you better, and they had this kind of bloodletting technique called fast, and they say, look, let's try that, but that's dangerous because you have to. I think they would strike at. I'm pretty sure it was like near enough to an artery almost, and there's a chance you could kind of just all go, or you somehow. It rejuvenates you somehow. But this was a known technique, and they did it, and he makes it, and he survives, and he starts to get better. And for a moment, people were worried Mutawakkil's kind of on his way out, but he wasn't. And Qubayha, when she finds out what she does, she says, you know what, right now he's got some strength. He's got strength back to him. So what she does is she gets some new concubines for him. And she has this concubine all done up. And she brings this concubine as a gift to him. How do you mind games, guy? How do you mind games? This one playing the mind games, man. So she brings the concubines to him. This concubine, new gift, yaar. New you, new gift, new concubine. And she says a poem, and she's a poetess herself. So she has a poem as well. She says to him, Ishrab. She says, Ishrab bihadha al-jam ya sayyidi, mustamti'an min hadhihi al-jariya. She says, drink from this kind of goblet, this vessel. Drink from, obviously a drink. And ya sayyidi, my master, was mustamti'an min hadhihi al-jariya. That whilst indulging, relaxing with this jariyah, this young lady's young woman, the one she's gifting. Waj'al, she says, Waj'al liman ahdakaha hissatan tahdha biha fi al-laylati al-taliya. Says, and the one who's gifted her to you, gift her in turn the following night. Seduction. This is master level. seduction. So obviously, Mutawakkil his heart has melted. He's like, Yaar, خلق الإنسان ضعيفا. Insan is ضعيف anyway, with this kind of sacrifice, this kind of giving forward. Who wouldn't kind of melt? And so he's like, he's totally melted. Pani, that's the thing. So yeah, so he now is totally in the low, man. He's in the low with Qubayha al-Rumiyya, and she becomes his number one. And in this kind of this new level of passion and love, she becomes pregnant, has a child. So this child is named Mu'taz. Now, Mutawakkil already has a child, and who's already of some age, known as al-Muntasir. And what had happened is Mutawakkil had previously already designated his son al-Muntasir as the next caliph, because you never know, anything could happen anytime. He lives a dangerous life. He actually did used to go out to some battles as well and some things. It's a dangerous game, dangerous, royal palaces, caliph, 4,000 concubines, a whole 3 continents span, the dynasty spans over. So he had designated the Waliul Ahd after him was al-Muntasir. Now, what happens is, as al-Mu'taz starts to grow, Qubayha al-Rumiyya, she starts to gain much more control in the royal court. She starts to have the ears of some of the Turkic ministers, the Wuzara, and these Wuzara were incredibly powerful by this stage. They were not just nobodies. They were people that were basic. See, the people who run your armies are always people of power. This is how you'll get things. How do military coups happen? That person, the commander-in-chief in most of these countries is not a publicly elected. It's just he has control. He has immense power. And it's a question of loyalties. And you have to remember that when you encircle yourself with these people. So she too has the ear of many of these Turks and many of these ministers. And she starts telling Mutawakkil that, Muntasir's good. I mean, he's good too. I get it. He's good. But, yaar, shouldn't it be Mu'taz? Right. Shouldn't it be Mu'taz? Right. So this is so she's kind of putting this into his ear, and he's this is settling in. And he too is very fond of Mu'taz because he's really obsessed with Qubayha, and this is for years. He loves her to bits. So what happens is, as time moves forward, or as time progresses, or as people progress with time, you find that Mutawakkil starts to diss his son Muntasir. Right. He starts to diss his son in front of people. He'll start belittling him, and in front of the ministers in the royal court, he'll start saying things and treating him, saying sometimes things like, treating him like, stupid. What's wrong with you, stupid? Are you dumb or something? And remember, this is the heir to the throne. And he's noticing that, something's not right. Okay. And things start to intensify. Now, you see, the Turks, they too can see what's going on. Okay. So the ministers, they can see this, and they can see that Qubayha is kind of swinging things in her direction. So what happens? Mutawakkil makes a royal decree, makes an announcement. He says, I cancel my heir to the throne, al-Muntasir, my eldest son, and I rename him. I rename the heir as al-Mu'attas. And he has other sons as well, by the way. People like al-Mu'ayyad, he has al-Muwaffaq, other sons, but he names al-Mu'attas. Now, this has caused quite some drama in the royal palace. People are like, what on earth's going on? But Mutawakkil is still alive, but this is now bothering people. Some of the Turks, the ministers, they too, now there's these two famous characters that come up, known as Wasif and Bugha. They're very powerful. They're like these, you could say almost like the Home Secretary almost. And like the Secretary for Foreign Affairs, like that, the Foreign Secretary. This is how powerful they are. These two were incredibly powerful. And especially because of how they control the armies. So people are not sure because they're thinking Mutawakkil seems to be really getting swayed by this Qubayha. And we don't like where this is going. Now, Muntasir, you have to remember, is much more mature. And he's a strong man. He's like one of these strong-minded kind of soldiers. So he discusses with some of these ministers, some of these Turks that they have. And he says that, you know what? It's ar ya par. It's time to make a decision. That do we take a stand? Do we take a stand? Take a stance? And he wins the support of some of them. And what he does is he, in line with the unfortunate tradition that had gone before him, overnight, he has access. He gets his little crew. They sneak into his dad's bedroom, Mutawakkil, and just, without any news, without any drama being kicked off, they assassinate Mutawakkil. And he seizes the throne. Now, Muntasir becomes the new caliph. And when he seizes it, people pledge allegiance to him. He's already got, because it happened so suddenly, and he has certain people make announcement, other people pledge their allegiance, it's stabilized. Right. There is obviously this sends tremors into the world, but it is what it is. We've got Muntasir, and Muntasir is like a very strong character. He's not the kind of person that, he has a presence to him. So people go with it. Obviously, Qubayha is very upset that it ought to be her son. And he knows this as well. So what happens is, in the weeks that follow, Muntasir thinks that, look, I'm not going to fall into the same mistake that my ancestors did with letting these ministers have so much power. I'm going to make it clear that the power is mine. So he makes it very clear, and he's a strong character. He's not a pushover. And he makes it very clear to the ministers. He starts kind of trying to curb in some of the control, and he himself starts to participate in things. Like, he will attend the battles, and he's a very strong soldier and a strong fighter, and he himself is at the front, and he's leading. He's going to projects. He's attending this city. He's going to that town. He's kind of taking control of things himself. And he starts to get involved with the common people, starts to regain their hearts, make it be known. You know how you'll get a presidential campaign and people will go to this city and go to that city? He starts doing that and winning the hearts and minds of people. He's not a silent caliph, he's present. And so people realize, wow, okay, so they start to take a liking to him. Now this leaves the Turks a bit divided, because they can see what he's trying to do. I'm not trying, what he's doing. Whilst this is happening, Qubaiha, she starts liaising with some of these, saying that, look, let's lay him to rest. Let's do something about him. Now the Turks they agree that they don't like al-Muntasir. They don't like what he's doing, because if he carries on, they will soon be relatively powerless, or at least that's the direction this is going in. But then they are divided amongst themselves. They don't really like this Qubaiha either, because they know what she's about. And one thing Qubaiha was very known about was she really took to royalties and just luxuries, and maybe because she came from a background of poverty, but it was something that was very apparent about her, that she loved, just really enjoyed indulging in luxuries and wealth, and it was all, that does give off that attitude of me. And people, they thought, the Turks were like, well, we can't really trust her, but we don't like what's happening with Muntasir. So they do listen to her. She's saying that, look, let's do away with him. And the legend has it that, check this out. It's interesting. Mindset is everything. And there's a hadith that Allah says that, Ana inda abdi ka dhannihi bi. How a slave thinks of me, that's how I will treat them. Right. If there's any trolling, right, guys, I'm gonna put some of you in timeout. Okay, if there's any trolling, right, and if any kind of pay attention, you can chat elsewhere, not over here, not in the distracting manner. And what I will do is right, so distracted me there. Right, so where was I? You see, this is why I find this so annoying. Make me lose my train of thought. Right, so, and this is why if you do it again, anybody, instant block. Okay, so okay, so now, right, so coming back to this thing, Qubaiha, you've got the Turks, you've got the Wuzara, you've got al-Mutawakkil, you've got all these. Mutawakkil's gone, you've got Muntasir, people are upset with him, but he's this very strong character. And the Turks feel that, okay, one thing we need is to get rid of him. But whilst this is happening, this is the thing. It comes back to the spirit of an individual. You see, as long as there is a fight in you, you can always make it. It is when you give in mentally. Now, the legend has it that Muntasir one day was, he was in his palace, and they had these storage rooms, huge, with antiquities in there, and many kind of just items and stuff and valuables were stored. So he asks for a rug to be brought out. Now, when the rug is brought out, it's an ancient antique rug from the Sassanid dynasty time. So it's ancient. We're looking at it. It's a few hundred years old. That's what it is. This ancient rug, very well kept. So he has it unfolded, and he's there sitting on it, and it has this writing in the center, a pattern. He has this, catches his eye, and it has some writing in Persian. And he's intrigued. What is this writing? So he has somebody come to read it, and what they do is they take a look at it, and they can't, they seem to brush it off. They say, yeah, Khalifa, Amir al-Mu'mineen, it's nothing. It doesn't say anything. And he's like, what does it say? He's like, I never asked your opinion. I asked you to translate what it says. So what it says, so one of them comes and they translate it for him, and it's an ancient Sassanid prince by the name Shahrazor. And he says that, and he's written on there that I, Shahrazor, the son of Kisra, the son of such and such, killed my father for the throne. And I only indulged and enjoyed that throne for 6 months to come before I met my demise. These words send shivers down Muntasir's spine. And it really hits him deep down in his psyche that, damn. And he starts to feel that I've only got 6 months to live. And what happens is, it is actually said within those months, like from when he took the throne, within 6 months, he actually, within 6 months, he was poisoned and died. And it's amazing that you see a person's fight, his inner fight, he gives up. And this could be in any area of life. And in fact, it's very interesting if you read Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning, of those in the concentration camps. And it's when they gave up the inner fight, they died. And those who didn't survived. And it's interesting. So Muntasir is poisoned. But when he's poisoned to death and killed, the Turks, especially these two commanders, these commanders in chief, these Bugha and Wasif, what they do is they do not want Qubayha to have any control. So they go back. And if you recall, when I introduced the siblings of Mutawakkil, I said Wathiq before him, there was Mutawakkil, and then there was Musta'een, and he was meant to be the caliph after Mutawakkil, but Mutawakkil changed it. He put his son Muntasir or Mu'taz next, as they often do. The Turks went and got Musta'een. They said, you know what, let's go with him. And they bring this guy and put him back in control. I mean, he was never in control, but they put him in control, and he's an absolute puppet. He has absolute no say in the matter, and he tries to, on one or two occasions, try nothing. Everybody knows it. He's just a puppet, and you have Wasif and Bugha that just run the show. Obviously, Qubaiha is well mad about this. She's like, this is just bang out of order. Now, she does, you see, the Turks were divided. She does have some on her side. And it's interesting. This is how much of a puppet this Musta'in was, that he, even though he was a good man, but he didn't have no power. That some of the ancient poets had written about him. Right. Right. So one of the poets had written about him that they had said Khalifatun fi qafsin, that a Khalifa in a cage, bayna wasifin wa bugha, between wasif and bugha. Yaqulu ma qala kama yaqulu al-babbagha. They say that this is how the Khalifa is in a cage between these two. He just says what these two say as though he's a parrot. Babbagha is a parrot in Arabic. Now, so this is the kind of stuff that's going on. Now, you see, this is why people, if you know none of this kind of trolling or chatting about whatever, I just blocked someone, I'll block a few other people as well. So Qubaiha, what she does is she gets together certain people that she can win their trust, and says to them, look, what we got to do, we got to really dispose of these people, fight with us and do this. And she gets her son, Mu'taz, says to him, what on earth are you doing? Rally a crowd. We can't have this guy. He's just useless. So they do. So they rally a crowd, they get some people. Mu'taz rises to the occasion, says, yeah, I'm going to get this for myself. He has his other brothers. He kind of wins their support over. Muwaffaq, who was actually a brave warrior, a brave fighter, brave soldier, put it like that. Because in another session, what we'll do is we'll speak about there was something known as the times of distress, the crises or the disarray of Samarra, which is the city they live in. And it involves all this that's going on because people are getting really upset. See, whilst this is happening, Musta'in's been placed in control, Muntasir has been killed, the public are getting upset. And there's certain weeks that follow in which there's kind of rioting and stuff, and there's this kind of loss of control. This sets into motion something that would be known as the rebellion of the Zanj. The Zanj were, it's a word for like slaves. It's almost like an ancient word that isn't used so much, almost like saying Negroes. But there was a rebellion of the Zanj, which is actually not a rebellion of the Zanj. It was by an Alawi, a Shi'i leader, Ali ibn Muhammad, but he gets together with him. This huge rebellion lasts for decades, or over almost 2 decades, something we'll talk about another time. But Muwaffaq is the key. He's the brother of Mu'taz and Muntasir, and he's this soldier, and Mu'taz uses him, says, look, come on, man, you got to help me. Let's go. That's our uncle. I mean, why is he in control? We should be in control. So they go and they fight and they win. They don't kill Musta'in, but he realizes, look, I'm too old for this. So he kind of just says, look, I'm packing it in, and I don't want to be a puppet anyway. And so he leaves town and goes, and then he's just assassinated. Mu'taz becomes the new caliph. And this was the dream going back to Qubaiha. See, she always had this dream that my son, he has to be the ruler, right? He has to be that. So, and finally that's come to its fruition. So now things are settling in. Finally, Mu'taz is there. He's kind of trying to do his thing. His mom is saying, yeah, she's de facto finally in control as well. And this means full control. So money is coming in. She now controls the money. And something they say she had many great attributes to her. Qubayha Rumiyah, so talented, like a polyglot. And she was such a genius in things like language and poetry and obviously enchanting beauty. But they say one of the weaknesses she had was that of this greed for wealth. And this is what she's got access to. All of these funds now have to be channeled through her. So she's entirely in charge. Now, she's obviously dipping into the world. She's loving it. Mu'taz is loving it. He's in charge. People are a bit confused about the direction where this would go. Okay, because because you have to remember, people like the Turks were de facto, I mean, they not de facto, they had incredible power that they would kind of wield. Whilst this was going on and Mu'taz was going to regain the throne, the two great commanders that I'd spoken of, the Turk commanders, were assassinated. And they believe generally that Qubayha had something to do with that. She had because the Turkic factions had kind of split. She had somewhere on this side, somewhere on that. They're not one unified body. But those two were assassinated, and their children, obviously they had grown children who kind of took their positions. But there's a lot of drama going on. There's a lot of spice in there, a lot of kind of masala, a lot of kind of turbulence. And you see, what happens is some of these Turkic people feel that, you know what, we should get rid of Mu'taz. We don't trust him. Okay, let's get rid of him and get someone else. But this is expected. If you're Mu'taz, you think there's going to be an assassination on me. As the poet says that, Sazishon mein gira ek yatim shehzada, koi chupa hua khanjar meri talash mein. That there's a dagger that is searching for me. I have to be aware of it. So he has secret guards that are always kind of like these bodyguards they take discrete locations, but they're always watching out. And that's their job, to foil any assassination attempts. So what happens is one of these top, remember the two Bugha and Wasif, one of their kids, who's not a kid, he's a grown man, that Turkic faction does attempt an assassination on Mu'taz, and it's foiled by his special unit. So they catch him and they kill, and they don't just kill this guy, they make an example of him. They burn the body, set it alight, to say, well, anybody who attempts an assassination on me, this is what we're going to do. But you see, you have to remember, the person they're killing was a significant Turk. And even if the other Turkic factions didn't necessarily like him, there's still a sense of affinity. And that too, they burn his body in front of people. So this really, it leaves a bad taste in the mouths of his infantry and his special unit, who are these Turks. Now, as weeks pass and the months, Qubayha is running the show, but she feels that some of the infantry and these soldiers, she feels that they're not 100% loyal. So what she starts to do, as any good capitalist, since she's in charge of the treasury, she starts to tighten the noose on their salaries. She thinks this will bring them in check. That obviously, if they're starving for money, they have to listen to me. So this upsets the people, that why are our salaries not coming? And what happens is that it starts to annoy people. And she thinks, no, let them grovel, let them beg. They have to know who's boss. This move of hers actually tips the scale, and they lose the plot. they get that vexed that they hijack the Caliph Mu'taz. He's with them. They hijack him. They kidnap him. And what they ask for is their money. They want 50,000 dinars. 50,000. That's what they're demanding. That's what it... So now, whilst he's obviously saying, he says, look, okay, I'll pay you. Now he sends someone to go to the treasury and you have them release the funds. They go there and they say, well, there's no funds here. So he's kidnapped. And they get fed up with it, start to torture him. Now, this is something that's documented in the history book. What they do is they torture him by they take him to a desert location, have him stand in the burning heat. And that's what he has to do. He just has to stand there. And he can't sit, and he must stand. And they say that to the extent that he would keep raising one leg because the sand would be so hot, and then the other, this is how he's being tortured. He's the caliph. So he says, look, let me please send a message to my mom, Qubayha, that please pay these people 50,000 dinars. So they send a message, and she says, look, here's my treasury, it's empty. I don't have the money. Now, she has an incredible amount of wealth, but she would store it in what was secret chambers. So this goes on for only just a few days until their torturing is getting out of hand, that they decide to have him without any food or water in the sun, and he's completely dehydrated. They realize she's not going to pay the money. So what they do is, whilst he's dehydrated, this is what the historians write, they take him into a heated hammam. And they lock him here till he dies of thirst. When he dies, they raid the palace, because this is the royal guards. They raid the palace, arrest, not that they want Qubayha, but arrest her. Whilst they're trying to arrest her, she runs into these secret chambers to hide. So they didn't realize this, but they didn't know that there were these secret chambers. But as they're chasing her to arrest her, they discover these secret chambers that are full of stored gold, that people say it came out to something like 2 to 3 million golden pieces, which obviously they take, and all they wanted was just 50,000. That was all. And this became known as one of the shocking cases of Islamic history, where a mother had let her son die from thirst. A caliph die of the only caliph in all of Islamic history that died of thirst, because his mother refused to foot the bill of 50,000 dinars while she sat on millions. And it's such an eye-opener, and it comes back to that في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا, that this avarice, this disease of the heart, and then Allah allows it to grow. And she was obviously removed from the royal palace and went off just as a nobody and lived the rest of her life. They didn't actually kill her, but they just took. See, they were just interested in getting paid. And they got a lot more than they bargained for. And then there's just much more chaos in the caliphs that follows, but that's a story for another day. But I thought this Mutawakkil and his love story with Qubayha, how this woman rises from rags to incredible riches and has this dream of her child ruling the entire world, but then falls short on just footing this bill of 50,000 dinars and has him die in thirst, is just something that is so mind-blowing. And history is like that. It's full of so many examples for us. So people, let me share the link. Yeah, Qubeyha and the Chamber of Secrets. Rohim, you're doing it. You're doing it. People, shukran. Yep, shattered dreams from greed. This is the thing. Giving forward and greed. It is something, these two things have to, have such a focus. Where are the comments? Yes, none of these, I don't want these kind of, I don't know what people are just chatting about. I think I blocked one or two people here. So if people are just, going on about nonsense with each other and just, I don't know, just speaking all kinds of nonsense in the comments, they will be blocked. I don't care who they are. Jobiho, so you will be blocked. Shukran. Right. So, all right. Let me share the link. And what I'll do is I'm going to, whoa, is that the time? Actually, maybe we should just wrap up. Let me see. What's the, okay, maybe one or two. Where's the invite? There it is. Share the link. People, look, I'm just saying that, in the chats, you see, I'm all for people having a chill time. I'm a very chilled person, but have some respect and some kind of, this isn't like, don't just, what are you, like 10 years old? Unless you are 10, then you shouldn't be on here. Definitely saying for you. So, have some kind of respect and listen to some of the things I'm saying. And, if you're going to comment about something useful or something about what I'm saying, or maybe there's a thought, maybe there's a question, or maybe, fair enough, some people, a nice thing, like them people say salam from here, or they see someone on there, say a nice comment to them. But there's this, nonsensical kind of, I don't even know what people are chatting. I can't even make out from the conversation what they're chatting about. Just chat amongst yourselves. Talk to people. Haven't you got friends? I mean, you're coming on here and, you're distracting. And that's not what this is about. And I want you to, and the mods, yes, I don't know how many mods are on today, but if these people are chatting like that, I want you to put them in timeout. If they do it again, just ban them. Okay, I don't care who they are. I want you to understand something as well, that look, I suppose it ties in with the giving forward topic of today, that look, you have to remember something. You see, many of you, I may not know you. You understand? Now, I understand maybe in your mind, you may have watched some of my videos and you may feel that you know me, but it's kind of one directional because I don't really know you. So in that sense, there are kind of proprieties, you see, there's kind of etiquettes, because to me, obviously, I've never heard of your name. I've never seen you. You see, people, if you're just out of line or just spamming, or you appear to be spamming to me, I will instantly block you. Because keeping in mind, I don't know who you are and I don't really care, but but it's different because obviously people I know won't do that. And it's different. That reminds me. It's interesting because, you see, you have people on that note, I guess it ties in with this giving forward thing. You see, people will say things like let's say on Instagram, I have let's say you start to follow me, you try to message me, you will get a message that comes to you and it'll ask you like, how long have you been following me? And, just stuff like that. For example, it's just a set message. But people will say, look, Mufti, I've, like I'll get messages. People will say, oh, Mufti, you changed my life. Yeah. and you changed. I was going through a crisis of faith, and you saved me, and you did all these things, and I've been following you for years, and I've been I've been doing all, and people will say, oh, Mufti, in fact, like, this is an example. I had someone say to me just this week, say this same, but I hear this often, but people will say this. So he said, look, this is why I do these things, because I always ask people to introduce themselves. I do this, I have these skills in this, and I would love, more and more people to listen to you, because you changed my life. I know all these people would benefit from you. And but my first point is that, look, genuinely, if you are someone that I have benefited, have you even said thank you? Like, I've never seen you. I've never seen your profile. I've never seen a comment from you on a video. I've never seen anything from you. I don't know you. I mean, I don't know you at all. Not even I don't know you. I've never heard of you. Have you even said just shukran, or jazakallah al-khair, or, muchas gracias, or I appreciate what you're doing? Have you ever left a comment? Have you ever left a like? Have you ever... And it's a mindset, isn't it? It's a giving mindset, that you're okay to just receive, to just say, well, get. But what, in a question, like, this person said, oh, Mufti, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? This is just a fresh example, because it's from just this week. Somebody said, why do you do this? Why do you do this? I work in all of these things. And I said, well, why don't you do it then with my videos? I'm just saying, why don't you do it with my videos? He said, well, why don't you edit your videos in a particular way? And I'm like some kind of production kind of expert, and I do things for other people. And, why don't you do your things like this? And I said, well, why don't you do it with them? I'm not, by the way, I'm not asking him to do it, but this is it's a rhetorical point that, look, you're saying I changed your life. What have you done for me? Like, I'm being honest, like, what have you done for me? I've spent decades learning and investigating and reading and researching and presenting it to you guys for free. And that's because I have a passion in it. And I'm not saying you need to do something, but I'm saying that it's a mindset, isn't it? It's a giving forward mindset. But people have this thing that, like, just, why don't you do this as well for me? And why don't you do this as well for me? It's like, have I got nothing else to do? So if in that sense, I do say to people say, oh, Mufti, why can't you, where have you answered this question? Mufti, can you give me this answer in detail? I say, no. Like, what do you think this is? Like, am I just sitting here to provide you an education? It's you need to get up and do it yourself. And this is my point, that you see, what is it? It's a mentality. And this isn't about me. I'm not asking anybody for anything. I have a passion in this, but it's a mindset. Everywhere as a person, when I go to people who I see as, let's say, teachers that I have even remotely benefited from, first thing I do, even if I know people that are going there, I will always, and first thing, here's a gift. Take this gift to this person from me. You know what? There's this little thing I benefited from this person. And my point is, it's not about things. It's about a mindset. It's about, that mind and heart. And this is why it's irritable. You see people, they come on and they just lounging with this kind of, I don't even know what the hell they're chatting about in the chat. And you think, well, oh, Mufti, you do so much for me. Abbe yaar, chup. You do so much. Then behave yourself. It's like, so this is the thing that, and when people say these kind of things, like, oh, what, explain this to me, explain that to me, and I get it, explaining. No, they want answers, and I have videos. I have videos almost explaining almost everything. And people will be that lazy. They'll be like, can you send the video to me? I'll be like, do you know how to search? Go to YouTube. It's not rocket science. Search the damn thing. I mean, how bad do you want to learn? That's not learning bad. Learning bad is having to go 4,000 or 5,000 miles across the world and sleep on the floor and starve and fall ill. That's learning bad. But yeah, this is so these kind of things. So just it ties in well with today's kind of theme of saying, look, this should be, it's a mindset. It's not about things. Alhamdulillah, Allah as a person, as me, he's given me beyond imagination. But it's about a mindset, isn't it? Rather than just this kind of just this a person thinks, wow, what a person. What, even just a thank you, like, it does surprise me sometimes. People say, I've been following you for years. You've been benefiting me for years. I think, yeah, I've never seen your profile. Never. I've never seen even a simple thank you from you. And like, it just makes me think, like, what kind of a person are you? I mean, I'm glad I benefited you, but I'm just saying that when I hear these messages that you've done this for years, I think, yeah, it's different. Some people, you see their profiles here and there, I'm not saying they need to be doing it all, but you see it, oh yeah, I've read that profile before. I've read that name. This person's left a nice comment. This person liked some, or they said thank you here, said Jazakallah, said this, and you think, oh yeah, I've read that person's thing. You think, I've never heard this person. They don't, but anyway, before we get too much of a, let me share. Oh, Nora, you didn't have to. Honestly, please don't. This is not what. Shukran. Nora, you already helped so much. Nora's doing a great work with helping with a lot of the thumbnails, a great stuff, and I dearly appreciate it. So it's not, my point is just, when I see, this kind of stuff was in the background, but I guess with some of the things, it just kind of triggered it. And because it was linked to the theme, I thought, chalo, why not? Let's have a little, oh, yaar, Muhammad Hassan, yeah, sharminda kar rahe hain. You've, there's, shukran for the super chat. Much love. I've got to bring it up here, right? I didn't shukran. This is now, I feel terrible because I feel like because that was not the purpose of the message, but I dearly appreciate your love. The purpose of my message was just, you see, it was just a kind word. Even it's because people sometimes, it's interesting, they'll come and they'll say, I've got this problem, and Mufti, you've resolved so many of my issues in life without even knowing it, and you've done this, and I've got this deep problem, and can you do this? And they insist, and they really, and I want to help people, but it, sometimes I can't help but think that, yeah, I've never ever heard of you, and I've never even received a thank you from you ever. And it just makes me think that, wow, like, and you're not even cognizant of it. And it's just trying to help people change that mindset into feel that. But I'm not, I don't want people to just all of a sudden start thinking, Mufti, thank you. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. So shukran, people. Much love. I see Saracen, shukran. Of course, no, people, you guys obviously are always showing so much love, honestly, and I seriously, I value people. I value you guys. There's I don't want to say the name, but like, you guys are a regular who I see, on here, and always giving kind words and very kind of, and messaged me just the other day. I was in the middle of so many things. He messaged me, Mufti, there's some, just, I'm having, just something terrible has happened, and can I possibly talk to you right now? And we don't normally, we're in communication, I see it, but we don't normally talk. And it was actually one of the most busiest days, honestly, that I've had in months. I was having to go out of town in early morning, and this was just at night, and I still had a bunch of things to do and had some errands, and I still had to want to still have a quick gym session, and I had to finalize some stuff, and got this message, and you know, and it's an international message, and the person just said, look, you know, he's having a very terrible day, and can he speak to me? And I value these people, so I said, yeah, sure, you know what, give me a few minutes, I will call you. And I did, and so it's not and you know, and inshallah he was at some peace and stuff like this. You know, we had a conversation, and it's great to be able to help, but it's just, my point is just to teach you about others. It's not about, this ain't, you know, I'm not saying about bringing it back to me, I'm saying out there, push it out to other people, think in your life about other people. But I really, those of you that are like, I appreciate all your love, honestly. Claire, shukran. Obviously, all you guys are just always, I always feel the appreciation. Right, I've just, did I share the link? Okay, let me share this link. And Madrasa. Who really cares about the Muwatta? Madrasa. I don't know what that means. Madrasa. Oh, Madrasa is the name of the person. Madrasa. Tell me the difference in the Muwatta and the Mudawwana. Yeah, the Muwatta is a collection of hadith by Imam Malik, in which he does comment as well. He gives his viewpoints, and you can kind of sense an ideology loosely. I'm using the word ideology, but methodology, I guess. You can loosely sense it. It's in the background, and it's got about, it varies the narrations, probably about 1800, approximately 1900, some maybe 2000 hadith in the book. What is interesting is Imam Malik, what is interesting is Imam Malik does, he does state after certain hadith, we don't follow this hadith, which is interesting because he's presenting the concept that the hadith is sahih. It comes with the silsila dhahabiyya, the golden chain, which is considered by Imam Bukhari, you know, the most authentic chain in Islam, which is Malik on Nafi' on Ibn Umar from the Prophet. So it's just two people between Malik and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he, even with certain hadith with the golden chain, silsila dhahabiyya, he rejects them. Says, I don't, you know, we don't. It's not about him rejecting it. He's saying, he's teaching your methodology. He's saying that we don't practice according to this hadith. It's got a meaning, sure. What does it mean? What is its reality? We don't know, because we don't practice according to it. And that's, you see, you start to see the difference between the madrasa to Ahl al-Ra'i and the madrasa to Ahl al-Hadith, which is a distinction. And it's interesting because Imam Malik is also madrasa to Ahl al-Hadith, but he's also about Ra'i, about that, you know, reason, the voice of reason. So I think that's fascinating. Right, so that's fascinating. Now, the Mudawwana is different. The Mudawwana is fiqhi ruling. So people have, what you had was some of his students, or if you like, their disciples, what they decided to do is there was a bunch of, it's like saying there were so many class notes that were being passed down. So people would attend Imam Malik's lecture, they would write notes, and these were known as sama'at. And they would call them sama'at, or the asmi'a of, which is plural, both are plural, of, let's say, such, and they were named after the student. So the sama'at of, let's say, Ashhab, or the sama'at of such and such person, or Ibn Abd al-Hakam, or so on. Now, people would take their notes and say, oh, so Imam Malik said this. So Sahnun wanted to refine it. And so he actually took, it wasn't the sama'at, he took the from Asad ibn al-Furat, who was a student of Imam Malik, who actually created a unique text. What he did is he went to the Hanafi heartlands and he took down notes of Hanafi fiqh contrasted with Maliki fiqh. And this was the first ever, comparative fiqh book called the Mukhtalata. So he makes this, and what happens is he comes back and he wants to, because his fiqh with Maliki fiqh was weak, so he wants to get it from, Imam Malik has passed away when he comes back. And so he goes to the key students and gets their answers to the Hanafi ones and what he thinks is Maliki fiqh. So he says, what's the answer to this? What's the answer to this? And they keep saying, we think, I feel it was like this. But it's okay if you're saying, I feel or I think, but they're saying, I think Imam Malik would have said this. So it's different. So he writes it down, and this becomes his book, the Mukhtalita. And what happens is Sahnun, he reads it and thinks, you know what, this book would be epic if we kind of structured it and we put it in order and we gave it sequence and we put hadith in there and we put some evidences and we got rid of all this I think and just had it categorized. So he goes to Ibn al-Qasim and says, look, let's do this. And Ibn al-Qasim eventually agrees, and he refines the Mukhtalata, and this becomes known as the Mudawwana. So it is basically a series of, which is probably in print in about 5 volumes, maybe depends on the publishing house. And it has about 30, maybe 35,000 questions in there, which are being answered. And where the person is saying that Ibn al-Qasim is saying, I asked Imam Malik about this and he said this. I asked him about this and he said this. So that's what it is. It's a fiqh book. But then there's other fiqh books in the Maliki Madhab. This was Ibn al-Qasim's, but other people did it as well. Other students. So like Ibn Abdul Hakam, he would have had the Mukhtasar. The Majmu' of Ibn Abdus, you would have had the Mawaziyah. So there were many other texts that were being documented as well. But that's a lengthy discussion for another day, inshallah. Pirate Boy Pirate, shukran. Much love, yaar, much love. Yeah. Right. So, all right. Let me check. Have I got? You know what? It is getting late. Let's have maybe one. Bring on a guest, and then we'll call it. Wrap this up. Mr. Hung. Wow. All right. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Hung.
Assalamu alaikum. Mufti, you're the best, man. You're the best, brother.
Okay. Que lo que, hermano. Que lo que. Right. So, all right. Where are you joining us from?
I'm in Newark, New Jersey.
Oh, yes. In the comments. Yes, we read it. New Jersey. All right. So, what's going on, man? What's happening there? I can see some. All right. Some guitars in the background.
See my guitars?
I see them.
To you, man. I stopped playing when I converted, but thanks to you, I've been pursuing my musical skills again.
MashaAllah. Tell us your story, man. Well, how long have you been a Muslim, and a bit about your background?
Well, I'm Dominican. My family is from the Republic. They're basically Catholic, but I never believed in God. I've always been atheist my whole life since I was a little kid. And I got into Islam from, it was a friend of mine because I lived in like a little Arab community in Patterson, New Jersey. There was this kid that used to always pray. He used to smoke weed before he prayed, so I thought it was part of the religion. So he used to get all 5 salats high. But I found out later that way. But
you go. I want a part of this. How do I get in?
I don't know. No. He was a good guy, man. Good guy. But yeah, he gave me dawah, and I was like into like Buddhism at the time. I was like, I'll look into it. I couldn't disprove it. I kept looking online. I kept researching. I just started believing. So like 6 months into it, I was like, I guess I'm Muslim, man. I believe this.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
wow.
The concept of God, their portrayal of Jesus not being a God, just being a prophet. It made sense,
It really does. I mean, faith, when looking at it, Islam really, I mean, taking away at its core, what is really the core message of Islam. Obviously, there will be a lot of things that are kind of like around it, layers and things like this, that people and culture and all kinds and just tradition and folklore as well will be added in there. But Islam at its core, this message is a message of simplicity, and it is one that really echoes with the soul. If a person just thinks about it in, just when they're on their own in solitude, they will find it harmonizing with their heart. It's not something that is complicated. It's just about God, and it's just about, you see, and it's so beautiful when you think about it, Aslim, that this Islam, in essence, it's about just letting go, just that surrendering. Because that's
kind of completes you. A lot of people born Muslim, I feel they take it for granted because there's a lot of out there. It's like a whole bunch of crazy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's faith, Iman, is a personal journey, and not everyone will take a good journey in life. People may not value what they have. People may not, they may have it, and even if they're aware of it, they still may not. It's like anything. Like, let's say you take money. People can, they can have money and it can still be unhappy. And some people, they could get money and maybe they become, it completes what they were looking for, but it's not. It's the meaning, and it's the same thing with faith. The meaning you take from it, because you could have it all your life, and it could still maybe help you at certain points. I'm sure it'll help you, but maybe you don't optimize, and maybe you misuse and abuse faith as well. That's another.
Well, movie is really about gratitude. I always feel like the secret happiness, because a person like Bill Gates could wake up tomorrow with $1 million in the bank, and he'll probably jump off a bridge. If I wake up with $1 million, it's the best day of my life.
I'll jump as high as a bridge. You'll be like
probably as high as a bridge
in reverse.
So this perspective is about gratitude. I really believe that's the secret to happiness. To always be grateful.
That is, that is.
Try to always be. I always think. I think a lot every single night. I don't make my 5 prayers. I'm not the best Muslim, but
it's okay,
every
man.
single
It's a journey.
All my blessings.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You said it. What you said, it is. That is it. The Wahdat. That is the thing. Is that it is all about, ultimately about gratitude, and it begins with yourself, being grateful for what you have. And there's this. I recommend everyone. In fact, one of the times, what I'll do is I'll actually go over it in one of these sessions. I recommend everybody Googles this. That it's about the last. The wishes, or the wishes of the what was it? The top 5 regrets. Sorry, not wishes. Regrets of people in palliative care. So these people, there was a study done on people who were in a hospice and they were dying, and they've got maybe 6 weeks left, maybe 12 weeks, maybe just a week they've got. And so this researcher goes in and they investigate what are the top regrets these people have in life. And what they do is they then put out all the regrets and find the most common ones, and then rank them, the top 5. And it's so powerful, wallahi. When you read that, and it starts off with, people will say things like, you know what, like in the end, when they've realized now nothing matters, they say, I wish I'd just been more true to myself, not had to worry about what people think. Because in the end, nothing, because we have so much, but sometimes we're not grateful because we're trying to maybe meet people's standards and trying to make this person happy and that person happy. And one of them, they said, I wish I just spent more time with friends and family. Like, wallahi, you read it, it kind of puts a dagger in your heart, and you think, damn. And then you want to, and hopefully you make people do that. They become, because it's gratitude ultimately. You become grateful for each moment. You think, yeah, alhamdulillah, this is an epic. You get excited.
No, it's true. It's true. It's like I always say, it's like a mantra of mine. It's just you have to be, especially for family, because that's all you have. Even if you hate them, if they're annoying, have annoying family members.
That's you came right there. You came off as Vin Diesel right there. Like it's all family. It's all family.
Mufti.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to ask you this question, because I usually find the answers, and usually you're the one who answers things.
Sure.
Clearest, most concise, non-objective answer I always get from you. But I wanted to ask you, I noticed, right, in a nutshell, I want to know if Allah does he have like a sunnah? Because the way that revelation came down, for example, it came down to the Prophet Muhammad for 13 years before he gave anything that we can derive a Sharia from. So that makes me think there's a lot of people who embrace Islam. And I see a lot of them go hard like the first year, and they kind of leave, because sadly, it's the fastest growing religion, but it's one of the religions that people leave the most. You meet a lot of experts,
100%.
And I feel it's the pressure. You got to come in, you got to wear this hat, you got to wear this, you got to, it's like a new job or something. You got to pray like a prophet. Especially the Wahhabis and the Salafis do it.
Yeah.
Prostituting over there.
Yeah.
But I feel that there's some kind of sunnah in the way that the Prophet, the way that Allah set down the revelation, because 13 years, that's a long time before he commanded to observe kind of rule. He was just teaching us Tawheed, who he is, Shirk, who he is. So I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that's what was, because I was about to say hung. What is it called?
My name?
Yeah.
My name, I have a crazy Dominican name. It's like a Jewish, like old ancient Jewish name. Sash Ariel.
Okay. Sounds almost like Sicario. All right.
It's almost like I think they derived the name Zakaria from it, but it's more.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So sure. So Zakaria, yes, it is, and it's really good that you've seen that, you've made that connect mentally, because for some people maybe they don't see it, but you're spot on. You see, the majority of prophethood and the risala with the prophet amongst people was about what matters, what's in the hearts. It's about building that connect with the divine. And even when the prophet went to Medina, he started off, it's about humanity, feed people. In fact, when they said, what should we do in Medina, they said, tell us something that we could, because just in case there's some people who are not, they're reluctant about this whole message. He just said, At'imu ta'am, feed people. Afshu salam, spread peace, be peaceful. Like be mellow, be kind of smiling when you meet people. And he said, Tadkhulul Jannah bi salam. That is how you will just enter paradise with ease. Because you see, ibadat are they are important for the individual. They are important because they serve at a spiritual level, and they are your personal connection. However, these things are what they call huququllah. These are, like they say, the rights that rights isn't the right word. I don't really like the word rights, because it's not like saying these are the right, but I prefer that this is your connect with God. Yeah, you're kind of, and these could be ibadat, could be like making dua. Obviously, it could be salah. It could be any act of worship or ritual is your channel. It is your connect with God. But then there's huquq ibad of people. This is your connect with humanity. Now, this is the side of how you interact, the social side. This isn't about worship. This is about your social thing. Now, people, you see, you said that when people come to the faith, they go through this whole affirmation phase. Rules, and they go through this whole phase of, I'm going to wear this garb and wear this hat and wear this thing, and you see, there may be a number of reasons for that. And one is that people are trying to absorb an identity, and they go through this kind of validation phase, which is like a self-validation. So they are, because if, let's say, a person is Muslim, now somebody sees him, they don't know they're Muslim, because, let's say you've become Muslim now. If a person met you, now they may think, actually, you know what, because you're Dominican, but you may have features that are similar to, let's say, Middle Eastern. So somebody may think,
we're the oldest settlement in the New World, so a lot of the people from Andalus.
Yeah. So exactly. So maybe in your case, people might think, I don't know, is this guy Muslim or not? Maybe he is. But let's say somebody else, let's say they were just from a white background or a black background, or something that's not obviously Muslim in a way, let's say. Now, yeah, or even maybe a kind of brown with certain features.
Yeah.
So people may feel that, you know what, I want people to know I'm Muslim, and I get that, and I respect that, and I get that. I think that's okay. That's a stage, because you see, they want someone to know that they're Muslim because they've made this big leap into Islam, but you can't see it from outside, because even if you grow a beard, let's say a man grows a beard, it doesn't mean anything, because other people, non-Muslims, have beards. So yeah, so exactly. So they may go through this stage of self-validation. The problem is not that. The problem is getting lost in these things. You see, all of a sudden clinging to these things as the message. These things are just culture. Islam never brought a uniform. It never brought things like this. But these things, fair enough, if you're at a stage where you see, because it's new, it's like you're walking on crutches. Later on, the muscles will get stronger and you won't need them. You can just walk. You won't need validation later on. But at that stage, I get it. It's natural to need that or to want that. So some people might do things like put a hat on and carry a tasbih around, wear a thobe. But then they could get lost in, they could derail. And it becomes about
it can kind of be like a form of shirk. I look at it, because these things are associated with Allah and the Quran and being Muslim, and it just kind of gets, it gets out of hand. It reminds me of the Pharisees.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, shirk. I could see where you're coming from. What it could become is, you see, what it does is what people want to beware of is falling into this trap of self-righteousness, that all of a sudden I'm this good person and other people are bad. Like, you're not a good Muslim. You're not a good Muslim. You drink alcohol, you smoke weed, you do this, you cut your hair, you don't wear hijab, you don't have a beard, you listen to music, you have a tattoo, you do this, I'm this good Muslim. This, at that stage, that's where one can say the devil has them. And this is that what they're doing is just in vain. They've long derailed off the path. And this is just going, they've lost the path, because it's not about their connection to God anymore. Now it's about them. It's about the ego. It's about, I'm this self-righteous person. No, you're not. If that's how you think, you're definitely not.
And it's interesting, I mentioned the Pharisees. I read the Bible a lot too. I don't know if that's
the Bible has great wisdom in it. It has great wisdom in it. Yeah.
It's just so crazy to me how the true Injil, what Jesus was speaking to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, it's so relevant now to the Muslims. It's like they need to hear that message, because it's like, you think because you dress a certain way, or the Bible so such and such much, that you think you're holier than thou, and that you control the it's crazy to that thing, like Muslims.
That is amazing. So well said. I absolutely endorse what you're saying. That is so true. You see, because it's interesting that, you see, time, Allah says in the Quran, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. You see, these days, time, we rotate it amongst people, amongst civilizations, amongst societies. In the time of Jesus, you see, he was dealing with a religion, institutionalized religion. This was his greatest kind of confrontation, his challenge. It was, you had the Sadducees, you had the Pharisees, you had these high priests, you had the Holy of the Holies, the temple, you had all these, but they had lost the spirit, the soul was missing. It was all about these letters of the law. They were a literate community. Isa alayhi salam was dealing with a literate people. But you see, words, what they do, they limit. They are amazing. They capture, but by capturing, it also limits. You see, like fragrance, it is just free. But when you describe it, you get it across to the person, the message. I say it's bergamot, it's got lavender, it's got patchouli in it, but I've also restricted it. You see, because the real spirit, because the real spirit of the fragrance, and this is why Isa was referred to as Ruh Allah, because he was trying to bring back to people the spirit of being connected to God. Not about, you see, you guys have got the letter. You guys are scribes. You're the clergy. You guys are, these high priests, and you're fighting amongst yourselves, and you think you're special. You think you're holy because you've got so many rituals. You got to do this on the 40th day, and this on this day, and tie this over here, and do this over there, and sacrifice this offering. And now you see, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in Hijaz, in Mecca, it was a different society. It was not institutionalized religion like that. It was more a dark, superstitious paganism, which was kind of fettering and shackling the people, and it was crippling their mindset. It was not that they had, for example, these the letters of the law, and in fact, most of them were not even well scripted. They were not people. I mean, they could read and write, but they weren't that well at it. They didn't document things, and so this is why the Prophet said, "Nahnu ummatun ummiyya," la naktub wa la nahsab, because this is how the Arabs were. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, first of all, the first thing was to eradicate the shackles that bind the, oh my God, I'm cursed. Oh my God, bad luck. This is going to happen to me. I'm cursed all my life. My offspring will be cursed. You live in this mental darkness. The Prophet spent over, 13 years just Iman, Iman, Iman. It's God is hope. God is about light. Allah nur samawat. It's not this darkness. You see, let go of these, have trust. You're shackled in, take the leap. This was the Prophet's message. And then when he gets to Medina, the next thing is, because this society was more about being plunged in this dark superstition, and it was about giving them structure, because they weren't a people of much structure. So he gave them structure, and the Quran introduced rules, because they were a people that lacked that in society. They didn't, I mean, they had rules, but they didn't have it as structured. So it gave, because you see, structure will now set about a civilization into motion. But then now, you see, as you move on in time and as time progresses, civilization for the is immensely literate. And we have structures everywhere. We have just structure. We're drowning in structures now. We've got words everywhere. The internet, everything is just words. We type, we text, everything's about structure. We've got rules about this tax and that tax and parking laws and this. Everything is super structured. Now, you see, structure is not what the emphasis should be on, because the emphasis is on that soul again. And the fact that you say Isa alayhi salam's message, you're right, because it's the spirit of his message. It's the same thing. It's about Allah, it's about Islam, it's about the Quran, but it's the spirit in reminding people that yes, the laws are there, the rules are there, but you see, the spirit, don't become like the Pharisees. Don't become like those. And the Pharisees here, by the way, I'm sure people do know, it's not speaking to the Pharisees, which are the Persians. It's the PH, which is the old Jewish kind of the clergy, and it was divided between them and the Sadducees. Yeah. So, yeah, but very well said. Very well said.
But all that with a grain of salt, because you could get lost. Because I always look at the fact that Surah Al-Fatiha, is the first surah, and it's the one we always recite in every prayer. And the ultimate message of it is to, not be led astray like the Christians, and to not be forsaken like the Jews. If I'm correct, right? Am I right or wrong? I don't know.
Sure. That's carry on.
Right? All right, so it's hard because you kind of have to balance it out, because you don't want to get too lost in the spirit where you have no structure, and you don't want to get too much into the structure where you're just being a person who thinks better than everybody.
Yeah, so this is the beauty, because you see, with the Quran, inevitably there is already structure there. Islam already has structure. So this is not, I think Islam would never fall short on an absence of structure, because it has it. But look at the balance. You see, I think this is so, it's mesmerizingly beautiful when you think of it. That look at the verses of the Quran. If they are some 6,200 verses, let's say, depends, people count them differently, but generally you're looking at what? At most 500 are to do with laws. At most. That's a very small percentage of the Quran. But it's a necessary percentage. So it's an important ingredient. So it's not, you can't do away with it. It's there to teach you. It's significant. It's indispensable. But look at the proportionality as well. That, there is this huge thing of the spirit, and it's about, it's not, and by spirit, it's not just about spirit. It's about also humanity, compassion, that kind of serving people. This whole thing of this whole thing, you've been taken out from people for people. Ukhrijat linnas, this ummah, ummatan wasatan, this ummah that comes in the middle. And people say moderate people, but also in the middle, in that sense, to also moderate in helping, in assisting, in serving. So I absolutely spot on. The thing I was going to say about the Surah Fatiha, that is a common interpretation. The Surah Fatiha doesn't say that they are the Jews and the Christians. It just says, that, oh, Allah, guide us. And ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. Okay, guide us on the path.
It's like you say, the superposition of the
exactly.
It leaves it open for you to put anybody.
It leaves it open, exactly. That's what I was going to say. It could fit that if a person is looking historically at the Abrahamic faiths and things, well, actually, that's an interesting fit. It could fit like that. You could also look at something else in life and think, well, actually, you know what? غير المغضوب عليهم, that, not those who are people who commit atrocities, or people who do, you could, whatever you're looking at, the Quran will speak to you. with it. And that's one of the miraculous kind of nature, the texture of the Quran. Yeah. So, yes. But I think your question, Zakaria, was epic. And I think the point, it really kind of, I'm sure it struck a chord for so many people, and many people will kind of inshallah benefit from that as well. So shukran. And I see you've got the thing going in the background.
Bachata, you know.
All right, the bachata.
I got every Latin
You gotta
drums,
go.
Paracas, everything.
All right, so absolutely, man. But shukran, and do stay in touch, and inshallah was posted with your stuff, man. You're very welcome.
I listened to what you were saying, and I owe you the most probably than anybody.
No hay de qué, hermano. No hay de qué, man.
Verdad.
Right, take care, inshallah. Much love. Assalamu alaikum. Take care. Wow, people, that's you had the Zakaria. All right, we've got al-Muntasir. All right. Not only were we speaking today about a Muntasir from the Abbasid dynasty. Look at that. What is this fate? Is this destiny? Or is this reincarnation?
I was thinking that what a coincidence that must be, because I was hearing you talk about it, and I was like, today is the day he's going to talk about al-Muntasir.
And there you where are you joining us from, al-Muntasir? Just don't say from Baghdad or from Samirat.
Now that would be something. I would have to worry about whether I'm going to live in the next 6 months, but thankfully that's not the case. No, I'm joining from Toronto, Ontario. Mufti Sahib, I've been following you for close to a year, and I have to say, I'm amazed at sort of how you put your content together, and how you've adapted it with time. Like recently, I've been noticing that you give sort of an overarching moral, and then tie it into the history, particularly Islamic history, tie it into the scripture, and it's amazing. I just wanted to say,
man, I
really appreciate
it, brother. I appreciate it. It's shukran. Yeah. So, so what is it you do, Muntasir?
I'm a software developer.
Being victorious, al-Muntasir.
I wish I was more victorious, but no. I'm primarily, I work with software.
Okay.
Close to.
I speak to people, and they, sometimes they say, I suppose for non, technicians like that, all these things must sound like so. Wow. Okay. Do you just design games? Do you just play games? I was speaking to someone. They said, no, actually, one of the Patreons was telling me, Kira was telling me she's a hacker. I thought, like as in an official. That's the kind of job.
Yeah.
Wow, that just sounds. I'd love to be a hacker.
No, I mean, I think the whole sphere of tech is becoming so complicated that you have very, very small niches where people can play. So there are actually people who are dedicated to just hacking, and they're what you call, if I know the terminology, like white hat, as in they're hacking for the purpose
ethical hacking.
Ethical hacking, exactly.
Ethical hacking,
exactly. So
in the Quran, إذا قيل لهم لا تفسدوا في الأرض, when it says to them in Surah Baqarah, it says, when they are told don't spread corruption, قالوا إنما نحن مصلحون. We're those who bring about reform. We're ethical, yeah. They go, not us. We're the ethical ones.
Well, I mean, in their defense, they are the ethical ones. I will not compare them to the hypocrites.
I'm joking. But it's interesting how the same thing done on certain things is good. The same thing done in certain things is bad. It's interesting, isn't it? I don't mean these people are, by the way, so I didn't mean that for Kira or any of the hackers. I was just saying generally anything, when they change and all of a sudden it becomes good. It's like, so for example, let's say people who, let's say in the States, or I don't think in Canada, where they legalized cannabis and marijuana. So they will have manufacturers, but they'll have other people, but it'll be like, these are the bad guys who had it, but these are now the good guys.
Yeah, I mean,
it's amazing how a narrative, just a spin on a narrative, changes everything.
Actually, you know what? I think one of the most profound, not one of the most profound, but something that really struck me of late is that how, narratives are what shape our lives more than anything else.
Yeah.
And it seems, at first it seems like a bunch of woo, but then when you really, really reflect on it, it's sort of the fact that what distinguishes us as creatures is our ability to imagine and think and craft a story.
We live more in our world of narratives than we do in the real world.
Yes.
And this is why when Wittgenstein was asked, and he was trying to explain that, he said, you see, that if a dog or a lion could speak English, let's say they could speak, and then they could speak English, and they still, he said, they still could not understand you, or you could not understand them, because it's not, you see, it's not the language, even if it had the linguistic capacity and the speech capacity with the words, you embody psychosocial realms that are human properties. They are emergent properties. They don't actually exist. And so much of our world, I would say, in fact, our world, without us realizing, the bulk of it, which we embody, is not the physical world around us.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I think even when you were talking about the history of the Abbasids in the last few sessions, it's interesting how history keeps repeating itself.
Yeah.
It's
because the stories don't change, do they? The archetypes are the same.
They're the same. I mean, and the really interesting thing when you hear these stories and the sort of the recurrence.
It's just somebody, it's just always that desire, that ambition. There's a poet. He says, I don't know if you understand Urdu. He says, "Yahan pe kisi ko bhi," he says, "Yahan pe kisi ko bhi kuch haspe arzu na mila. Kisi ko hum na mile, aur humko tu na mila." He says, you see, here in this world, nobody got their hearts, the extent of their desire. Nobody got that. He says, someone never got me, and I never got you.
Right.
But it's true, it's just, it's a vicious cycle in which we as human beings are, and the archetypes don't change. We just, settings change.
Yeah, the archetypes don't change, but the odd thing is that where I started to really, really feel very strongly about narratives is the Quranic narratives. A common accusation you get maybe from other traditions, not an accusation, but there may be misunderstanding, is that, these are just old stories which have been miscommunicated or passed down with the wrong kind of information, because it doesn't quite fit the biblical stories. There are certain things which are there in the Bible which are not there in the Quran. But I feel that when you look at the narratives that the Quran has expressed with the original stories, it's really getting to the core of it, and really telling you about deeper aspects of human nature. Some of the things that really struck me, just from a family, I mean, when you come from a family, especially from a South Asian family, there's tons of family drama. And
we do drama. That's the first thing they say.
We do drama.
And we don't just do drama, we do Bollywood drama.
Absolutely.
Full feature drama.
And doesn't it, I don't know about you, but doesn't it strike you as interesting that typically, the problem within siblings often or not boils down to jealousy. Jealousy of either a kind of, this person has more from my parents, or this has they're getting a bit more of this or that, and so on and so forth. And this eventually, small resentments at very early age often carry on for years and years and years. At least I've seen this in like the prior generation, where it's like five or six siblings, right? And it struck me as so interesting because, you know, the story of Yusuf alayhi salam is very much in that mold.
Well, yeah, it's very, you see, it's very archetypal. It's got that, it captures that archetype. And it's interesting because people like, I don't know, in psychology, you have Adlerian psychology, an old contemporary of Freud, Adler. And his whole thing was about, one of his key things was about the sibling position in the family determines the personality.
Right.
And it kind of, he felt that they would always be, you know, if you're the first child, or you're the only child, or you're the second, middle child, or the last child, and that would have a certain, it would shape an outlook on life. But this rivalry, it's interesting because, you know what, it's also rivalry from the closest possible point, because it's, you know, you're from the same parents, so you share, you know, the same kind of DNA, and you're so close. So wow,
it's a very conflicted feeling, I think, for most people. And when they go through it, they want to suppress it. They don't want to recognize the fact that maybe what they're feeling is something like raw jealousy or something a little bit more primal, and they might justify it. But it's interesting. What really struck me though is how, you know, Yaqub, peace be upon him, tells his son that after he warns him that don't share the dream that you saw with your siblings, and right after that he warns him and says, and Satan is your enemy, which was very interesting. At least maybe the way I sort of took it is that oftentimes how people kind of get lost in that whole wave of emotions of jealousy or competition, but what our religion really does well is to remind us that the source of all those feelings, of all that negativity, is singular.
Yeah.
And that's where you sort of need to redirect it to. Sometimes you need to sort of not look at someone who's literally your brother in the story as the enemy. It's really coming from somewhere else.
Of course. It's, you know, it's a shame because it's, you see, it's the fact that these people are forever bound together. For there to be any kind of, you know, deep-seated resentment or deep-seated, I think it is really tragic, and it is very common, unfortunately, especially, I think, like you mentioned, I have seen it in some Desi families quite a bit. I mean, alhamdulillah, to my own personal kind of siblings and all of us amongst that has never really been like that. And so we've never experienced it like that personally. And I think that's probably just because, you know, when we were young, we had a really tough upbringing, and what that may do is it may pull people together.
Yeah.
Because you kind of, you know, you've got to otherwise to survive, I guess. So, but I have seen this a lot in people, and you see, these things can be ironed out, but it needs to begin with talking and kind of acceptance. And, you know, like how you said, where you remove that filter, that demonic filter from the person. Try to, and this understanding that, well, you know, how could, from their perspective, how is this? And it's not that you necessarily will end up agreeing with the perspective, but it adds a layer of compassion towards it, in thinking, well, okay, I see where they're coming from, even if I disagree.
Exactly, humanizing them and not sort of seeing the negative as something. What can I say? Like, not associate the negativity that's maybe emanating from them to be off them. And I think that's a really hard thing for most of us to do, because we're very reactive. I mean, myself included. You know, you could have an argument with somebody at work and it gets heated, and for a moment there, you kind of lose track of the fact that whatever's coming out of this person is not necessarily what they are at this moment in time, right? So
somebody just said, well, siblings killing each other for power reminds me of, see, this is it, the whole Abbasid and this whole dynasty thing. It was just siblings or parents or children, and it's just it's where you have the closest possible people to each other who are at each other's throats. And it's amazing because you see, at the same time, because they're so close, they could be a source of immense, you know, strength. They could be, but it's just wow.
It is. I think, you know, what I thought it was really interesting that, you know, your previous caller touched on the whole the aspect of the spirit, and I feel that, you know,
he's actually just put a comment, Zakaria, I've dealt with my brother who deeply envied me, and it was one of the hardest obstacles I had to go through.
Right.
I mean, wow, may Allah make it easy. And I think it really is difficult, I think, for people, because I've spoken to people people have spoken to me about these kind of issues. And I think also, I'll tell you another, you know, another ingredient in the mix is that, you see, because we've known these people since we were young, we have that story in our minds. You see, whereas, so what happens is the current, even if you, like, let's say, even if you take a gap and now you go away, you don't see them for so long, you come back, and let's say even if they've changed, but that story is still quite dominant in the, and so it kind of, it dilutes the present. Like, people think, like, let's say all of a sudden a sibling is now in an enterprising business or is doing something, and you're probably, and the person might think, this is that, you know, even as a kid, he's just always full of it. You know, it's just like, because there's that story which is which is hanging over them, and it's diluting the present. No,
I think that's the interesting. The fact that you mentioned the Abbasids fighting amongst each other's brothers, maybe half brothers, it all boils down to sort of a lot of the Quranic themes coming over and over, and I think that is what really amazes me. Everybody sees something very amazing in the Quran, and the narratives have been probably one thing that convinced me, because I have shaken on my faith at some point in my life, but the narratives are eternal.
I mean, is it you know, it's a journey, faith is, and to be honest, you know, when people have like you said, been shaken on their faith, to me as a person, that is a testimony of true value for their faith, because it goes to show that these people have actually thought and considered and grappled with, not just, you know, it's not just a passive journey, it's an active journey. And I was going to say that with speaking of stories that are narrated in the Quran about previous prophets and children and so on. So Adam alayhi salam, his two sons, it's that kind of archetypal rivalry that is presented, because it's captured. And it's interesting, you know, when you look at this that you know, qarraba qurbanan, that they are offering this fatuqabbala min ahadihima. And it's interesting that Allah uses the passive verb, says, and that they were competing in something, in presenting a kind of offering to see who is more successful. But it says, and it was accepted from one. It's interesting that you see the interpretation as well, because Allah is not in that verse. Obviously, ultimately, Allah is accepting of everything, and Allah is, you know, the ultimate. But in the verse, Allah does not say, and we accepted this person, this one, and then he realized we accepted and killed. But it says, and it was accepted. فَتَقُبِّلَ. It's in a passive voice.
Right.
You don't know who's who the doer is. Now,
Right.
obviously, people would assume that's Allah, but the point is, you see that whatever it is they were doing, one person did something and it was to them successful, and the other one, you see, but there may have been room for interpretation, but the other one can't take it.
Yeah,
it's like this is that. So wow, and it's you're right, these Allah says we mention these things so that they may take lessons from them, multiple lessons,
many
man.
lessons.
Muntasir, so shukran, man.
Thank you so much.
Great talking to you and speaking about this topic and the name, and it's so relevant to today's Muntasir. And you've got the whole story of Mu'taz. And have you got a brother called Mu'taz?
No, I have a brother that I'm very in friendly terms with. We get along great, and
Excellent.
Thankfully, it's not. So
I was going to say, thank God it's not Mu'taz. Right, so shukran, man. Muntasir, it's been epic. Take care of yourself and stay in touch. Assalamu alaikum. People, that was Muntasir of Rai, all the way from Canada. Right, where we at, people? You know what? It's actually way too late. So let's wrap this up. It's gone over 3.5 hours. As always, it's epic speaking to you guys. But these topics are really so rivalries, competitions, sibling rivalries that Muntasir, I was about to say Mu'tasim. I was about to rename him as a different Abbasi caliph. But that Muntasir mentioned, even rivalry amongst people, amongst friends, amongst a close circle of something. Going back to what we were saying, this thing of, you see, of palliative care, and what we mentioned, that in the end, what does all of this mean? What is it in the end? That all a person would say, as the end draws near, that if only I'd, not been so petty, or not, if only I'd just let go of stuff and just moved forward. And even if the other person was in the wrong, even if then I'd still done it, I guarantee you, at that stage of life, we will think that. I can guarantee you, for most of us, we will always think that. At that stage, we will think, you know what? Even if I was in the right and the person was in the wrong, I should have still just let it go and just not let these things. Because what does it matter in the end? But then it's too late. This is why true wisdom is in kind of learning from the mistakes of other people. They say in Arabic, as-sa'idu man wu'ida bighayri, that you learn from the mistakes of other people. And this is why Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu said, hasibu qabla an tuhasabu. Why don't you take yourself to account before the accounts are submitted? Guys, it's been epic as always. Take very good care of yourselves. What I'm, the usual drill. If you haven't already subscribe, go for it, people. YouTube, Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, Instagram's a good place. I'm usually quite responsive on the messages there. It just makes it easier, that's all. But yeah, do share. You're always more than welcome to reach out to Patreon, which I can just bring up here. So if you want to see it, there it is. Oh no, that's no, that's not the what I was going to bring up. But you can, there it is, MALM on Patreon. If you want to reach out there, that has the Discord server, and you can connect to that. It has chat groups, some resources, some Q&A. You can connect. It does have these different tiers. It does have a one-to-one session tier as well, where there's a perspective session once a month. That's on a one-to-one basis. But other than that, it's just a loving, awesome community of people. Guys, take very good care of yourselves wherever you are. Remember the message of this, وَمَا تَقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ, that, you know, what you give forward, give it forward, you'll find it with God. May Allah keep you all smiling. Have an awesome day wherever you are. Wassalamu alaikum wa khuda hafiz.